convening Health and Recreation Committee because we started a discussion about pool fees and rules. I had given out fees and rules from several different city pool. I gave you guys Albany, Troy, Colony, Guilderland, Niskuna, and Glenville to look over at our last meeting, but it was just so much information that we decided that we were just going to have to take it home and read a lot of it and then get back together. What you have in front of you is a draft. What I did was I took the information that Mr. LaFawn gave us, which was on the existing signage at Central Park regarding the rules that are posted there. There's only a few of them posted. I sent you guys those photos. So those are in here, but I also then looked at all those papers, and just pulled things that I thought were important. But obviously this was just my first stab, so that we'd have something to discuss. So obviously I don't, and the other thing I want to state is that, again, we made it clear that whatever we talk about would not be going into effect until the summer of 2025,
Correct.
Especially since this pool is about to close down for the summer in a couple of weeks at least. The other thing we talked about was that everything should be uniform across all of our city pools. So that's all I have that I'm giving to you. So you can see that these are the hours. So the hours that I'm giving you are for Central Park. The capacity is for Central Park. My thought is that we would not charge City of Schenectady residents any fee to get into the pool. Do you need?
No, I thought I made copies for everybody of just things that I have, but I guess
We can make copies if you want.
Well, no, I can.
Okay,
as we're
okay.
talking, I can.
Okay. So, are we in agreement that residents would be free?
I'm in agreement. Residents should be free at this point.
Okay. Joe, I know you're not on this committee, but just in terms of your input.
Yeah, I think I would support the residents for free.
Okay. And then,
At least, until the next time we look over it.
okay. Yeah, because we're obviously way ahead of the curve. I mean, the only thing that I would say is that we do want to make sure that we have a discussion before the budget gets passed, because if we have to come up with new signage, which we will, then that needs to get incorporated into the same budget request. But I don't think it's a huge lift. I mean, it's only, it's not that many pools. It's not, those signs I don't think are that, we'd only need a few signs. It's not like...
Did the other proposals you received, did they charge residents?
I think
Niskuna did.
Family charges, town economy, no. Talicenta, no, but guests.
Okay.
I don't know if we had Talicenta.
Glenville had
Where was Glenville's pool?
Mohawk River Park and Pool. That is Glenville, right? Not Scotia.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if they had a pool out there, so.
They have a fob that you can go and get a fob, right? So they charge a resident if you show up with no fob. They charge $2. I can give you this to look at. Well, Colony is resident restricted, and I think so is Niskuna, that it's only residents.
And Talicenta, there is a charge, family pass of $125. So there are.
Yeah, and then it also says fees for residents are $5 for adults and $3. So go down a little bit further on that.
That's
Hi, Maxine.
Maxine, that's because those were my suggested prices next to yours as well. Hi, Maxine.
And here's Miss Luna.
Yeah, so
Here's a few of those. Hi. Yeah, so this was just me.
absolutely.
This is just to open the discussion.
Putting things out there. So as far as the hours, I would like to see them 12 to 6, not only Saturday and Sunday, but forever. Not forever.
Just
Instead of
uniformly.
12:30, right?
I wonder why that is, that it's 12:30 one day and 12 o'clock the other days?
Saturdays and Sundays. I don't know, since the Boys and Girls Club, take care of the lifeguarding, I just thought it would be nice to be universal throughout. I guess 6:30, either or, but as long as they're Monday through Friday, the same hours.
I think I can at least speak to Central Park on Sundays. I think one of the reasons that it closes earlier is because Music Haven starts at 7. So they were concerned about parking issues for Music Haven.
Could be.
To have the earlier time. But we could always go 12 to 6.
I don't know, I just kind of liked it. 6:30 is, you got parents coming home from work, maybe you want the pool closed, they pick the kids up on the way home, they want to go home and have dinner. I don't know, I just thought it should be universal.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. It makes signage easier. It makes rules easier when you have things the same.
So what about, you had mentioned before, is this something that we're responsible to do? Or I'm hearing...
Jury's out on
Jury's
that.
out, okay.
The city council, it sounds like, according to President Porterfield, the city council would be able to set fees, but not necessarily the rules. But what I explained to her was that I thought that, she called me the other day,
Okay.
that we could at least make recommendations about pool rules.
Right, because
And
I
that
thought
that
I
we should.
mentioned fees, and she said we couldn't set fees. I thought that's what she said about our meeting.
We normally set fees.
We do.
On everything.
Okay.
So the fees we can do, but the pool rules, she said we couldn't do. But I said I'm still having the meeting because I think we should have a voice and we should have input into recommendations that we could at least pass on.
To whom?
Well, right now, we don't have a parks director, so right now, the parks director did report to Mr. LaFond.
Right.
So I would hope that if
Some
we have a new
suggestions.
parks director coming on board, that it would be still under Mr. LaFond, so
Or just to Mr. LaFond, what we think
Oh, yeah.
is appropriate.
Yeah,
Oh, not
that's what I think we
appropriate, just
could make the
suggestions.
recommendations too.
Okay.
Or the mayor.
And the mayor.
Good. I just wanted to clarify that.
That's a good point. Let me just write that down.
I just think universal times, either, 12 to 6 or
I will say that I've been remiss in that I have not looked at what is stated or is in place for Front Street or Quackenbush.
Yeah,
So,
Quackenbush.
so I would have to do that. But again, I think we're way ahead of the curve here. I mean,
Right.
in terms of, it's just the idea of making sure that there's money in the budget for signage is the only.
Do we know the process of, they keep track of who comes and who's a city resident, who's not? So if we had to look at it, we would know.
They do check identification at the entrance, but again, that's a whole nother topic in terms of, did we want to... We actually touched on this as a council at one of our previous meetings recently where we talked about some sort of ID. And one of the suggestions that I think the mayor made was that the school district does issue IDs to its students. So, we could use, we'd have to talk with them.
I think Mr. Farley said they were collected at the end of the year, the school IDs.
So we'd have to talk with the school district and see if there's a way to piggyback on some sort of ID that way for the kids. But I actually like the idea of a recreational pass of some sort. The issue would be that people would, what we would do, I'm just brainstorming here, but what we would do is we'd set up tables outside the pools before the pools were going to be open, and we would publicize that, you want to come and get your ID. We could also, like, for example, piggyback with the summer lunch program or something like that, where we're making sure that...
The sheriff's fingerprinting, which is all over this summer, the Unity Cups, things like that.
Yeah, things like that.
Summer's already started, but,
So we'd have...
So it would be an expense, I'm sure.
It would be.
Yeah.
But again, I think the mayor mentioned at that last, I think it was a committee meeting, that he didn't see it being a huge expense to try to
I would
come up
like
with.
to see, like, what's at your doctor's office where you give them your name and your picture pops up, so that, who's going to lose their lanyard, right? Their pass, their
So having
ID.
iPads or something that...
Right, that they
Take
check.
that photo.
Do they, yeah. Well, that's something to consider, but, I just looked at Front Street briefly, and it's 12 to 6, closed, everything closed on Sunday. So,
Well, we wouldn't want to do that with
no,
Central
no.
Park, but
The
12 to
other
6.
two, the other two pools are closed on Sunday.
Oh, they are?
Yes.
Quackenbush also.
Yeah, pardon me?
Quackenbush is
Yes.
also?
Yeah. So the only one open on the weekends is Central Park.
On Sundays.
Yep. I had gotten an email from individuals saying they didn't want the neighborhood pools should be open, it's hard for them to get to wherever, so that's why I knew they were both closed.
I don't know why they would be closed on Sundays, do you know?
Yeah. Staffing maybe, I don't know.
Well, yeah, I mean, so that would be another budgetary piece, is that if we decided that we wanted all 3 pools open on Sundays as well, then we would have to pay for additional staffing through the Boys and Girls Club for that. So are you ready to, in other words, in terms of that,
Yeah.
would we like to see all the pools?
Yes, I would like to see neighborhood
12 to
pools.
6,
Yeah.
Monday through Sunday.
Yep. All neighborhood pools, as well as the city pool.
Okay? All right.
Your next, as far as adult lap swim, Monday through Friday, 8 to 9. Of course, I'd also like a senior swim as well, where seniors can just go in. The lap is for the lap lanes, with eventually some type of water aerobics. But and I'm wondering why it's 8 to 9. I guess I would like to see it maybe 10:30 to 12 or 11 to 12.
I think we have to ask that question.
Right. Move it closer to the actual starting time, it might be.
So why
Maybe they were trying to be able to have people go to work, not seniors, but I mean regular adults, other
Oh,
adults.
the adult lap swim, yes, but
Even
I'd
that.
like to throw a senior in there. Like, the adult lap, you would kind of think, like, when we could go to the high school, it was like 6 a.m.
Yeah, I know.
Before school opened.
I know.
So that's probably the earliest time, but I'm thinking, I would like a senior swim, maybe
So that they-
10:30 to
They don't
noon.
have to be in a lab, they could do the aerobics or
Right.
something like that.
Right.
So maybe 10:30 to 11:30, let's
Yeah.
say, right?
Before the, I think that's kind of important. A lot of seniors have been asking for it. There used to be the swim club at the Ramada, that was huge. And then when that closed down, everybody went to the high school. I went there for years, and in the high school, you can't go there any longer. Dr. Kodo said it's open again, but
I think so too, but
I haven't gotten anything.
it's really, I did it through the Y. At one point, the YMCA had taken over. That's how, if you were a YMCA
Right.
member, you could go to the Schenectady High School pool.
Right.
And they did do water aerobics and
Right.
everything. It was not, the environment wasn't great in the locker rooms. So
Oh, okay.
I stopped doing that.
Yeah.
But
So that's something I think that's very important, since it's a city pool. You may as well get every age group to use it.
I think that's a great idea. So I actually probably should I should try to get the capacity for Quackenbush and Front Street, just so we have everything on one.
Right, and if it needs to be, 12:30 to 6:30, I guess, but like you say, Music Haven as well.
It wouldn't be able to be till
Right.
6:30 on Sundays
Right.
in Central Park. So I like the idea of 12 to 6.
I don't think it matters. And again, they're home earlier,
Yeah, I think that's fine.
adults in the house, but,
So if we're adding, I did not put, you'll see like on some of those other forms that I gave you out, that there is sometimes a discount for seniors.
well, seniors would be free.
Yep, seniors, would-
Residents.
in Niskayuna, seniors, well, yeah, they'd be free if they were residents, right? Okay, so we could stick with, the reason I said adults, if you look down at my fees here, where I say guests of City of Schenectady residents, which was one of the rules that I saw, so, I think we should limit guests of residents, and I was saying no more than 3. So then, therefore, a guest of a
Right.
resident would be $10 for an adult or $6 for children. These are just my,
Right, and I just had a suggestion of 5 and 3. I saw somebody else had that, and it's hard to put an amount of guests on there, because then there's the three of us there with our 3 kids, just say, so that's 12 people. And then we each have 3 guests, so it's 21 people. And there's lions over there, so
That's why I was limiting it.
I know.
Are you suggesting limiting it less than 3?
I am per
Okay.
day, yeah. And I thought the cost, and I'll tell you my reasoning for the cost, because if I don't live in Schenectady, but I come and watch my grandchildren every day, and those 3 are free, but I have to pay $10 a day. That's $50 a week that I have to pay to watch my grandchildren in the pool. So that's why as a revenue source, we need to pay for it.
That's why
I know.
I chose the 10 was just because the cost of the pool
Right.
and trying to bring in some revenue if we're going to be free.
And then I thought that the children could be $3 versus $5. Again, I'm a grandmother. I pick up my other 2 grandchildren from Colony, so now I'm 10,
How about a compromise of like 5 and 8? I don't know, $8 for...
Again, the fees would have to come in front of the council.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So we could,
So we can give a few different recommendations to council. We could say 10 and 6. We could say
5 and 3.
5 and 3.
7 and 4, or 7 and 3.
And so for guests, they must be guests accompanied by a Schenectady resident.
Yes. That will cut down on lines. Again, we did want to have some
Well,
data
right.
given to us.
Right, we
We
did.
asked for some data.
We didn't know that, right? 1, 2, 3, we wanted zip codes, which...
Actually, we did ask for that.
Yeah.
So I'll have to follow up with Paul.
That could restrict revenue. I don't know
Yeah,
what the
we wanted
numbers-
to get data that they've already collected
And the why
in
of...
terms of how many people they have been seeing, what the lines have been like, but in the zip code data, because they have been taking that in at the...
Yeah, we did ask for that. 09, we would worry about 03 and 06, but we could tell by the street address whether they were residents or not.
Right.
They were supposed to have that to us.
Well, we'll have to, never mind, it's totally fine. So 10 and 6, 5 and 3, other numbers to throw out? Something in the middle?
Let's go, 7 and
7 and 4?
Yeah.
Joe, what's your feeling on those? Anything? Again, these are for guests, but still.
Right.
As Doreen said, it could be a grandparent bringing out-of-town kids.
7 and 4.
Okay, so if we do the 5 and 3, the 10 and 6, and the 7 and 4, we'll make that presentation to the rest of
Do we
council.
like 3 guests per? I think that's okay.
It seems reasonable to me to not go more than 3.
I don't even know 3 people to bring, but I'm just,
Oh, yeah.
I'm just,
Should bring a bus load.
And the whole thing is if there's a parent, bringing the neighbor kids, they're all residents anyway, so these would just be all non-residents. All right.
Okay.
So I'm okay with 3. I don't know if I want 3.
Joe, you okay with 3?
Yeah.
Okay.
So and before we get to your pool rules, so last Wednesday, St. Catherine, they've been walking over for years, summer camp. And so Ella was all excited. It was her last day of summer camp. Normally the field trips are on Friday. I'm sitting at home and I'm icing and I'm thinking, how can we get in the pool? Nobody's got an ID. Nobody has anything. So I drove over and they had just gotten there. The 2 different groups, the older group and the younger group was over in the playground. So I talked to Miss Steinhorst and she said, well, for years they'd go to the pool, they'd walk over, but a couple of the graduates were always lifeguards there, so they would always let them in. So I said, and there were probably maybe 40 students from 4 years old up to 11. The oldest was 11. So I did text Shane and he texted Julie. And so Julie said not to worry, just have them talk to me on the way in. But moving forward,
Yeah.
so, and now you've got, I think the older group had 3 chaperones with them, and the younger group had, a whole bunch of grandparents because they were younger, and, a few teachers who all had IDs. But, and, Ms. Steinhardt said to me, 95% of these kids are Schenectady. I said, that I understand as well. So that was just a little,
Well, no, I think that's a really good point, and I hadn't thought of it, and I haven't seen it on any of the other pools from the other towns.
somewhere I saw a
However,
busload, $30.
oh yeah, there is that.
But-
So that's an interesting. We could have another category of groups like camps. I mean, it's going to be summertime,
Right.
so we figure out the head-in, but there could be a group fee. That would include up to X number of chaperones, for example. I mean, maybe we should think about that. But how would we do it? We either have to charge a group a fee,
Right,
even though some of them might be residents, or most of them might be residents.
right.
But it could also be a different time of the day. It could be like 10 o'clock. It could be, well, we just said 10:30 to whatever we just said for the seniors, but we could say,
Well, she did mention she knows that, it's busier earlier in the summer, so they wanted to wait till almost the last week to make it easier on us. And, but just bring the younger ones into the splash pad to make it easier on us. But, parents were like, well, I want my kids to go in the pool. So, you know what I mean? So she did make it easy, want to make it easier on how, how controlling everything. But it could also be, and everyone knows their students at their camp, and they could always give a list of, 30 resident students, 10 non-resident students that are paying $3 to enter.
well,
But-
or we could have a flat fee for a group, because the interesting thing is, and the reason I like this though, is think about it, like, for example, the YMCA does their summer camp at Jerry Burrell.
If they could
I'm
get
just
a
saying, it's
bus
not just the,
to come over, right.
You're gonna have the, like, St. Cat's, or,
Right.
other places like that.
Just summer camps, yeah.
Just summer camps in general, but I mean, obviously, like, the JCC, they have their own pool, so their
Right.
camps are all taken care of, but there might be other organizations out there that run, there might be Bible camps, for example,
Absolutely.
at different churches.
And what a nice
It might be a
field trip.
good revenue
Yeah,
source, in other
that's-
words.
Yeah.
And
Right.
even, I could see that it could be something where it was like I think about the YMCA at Jerry Burrell, like, they might very well want to go every week,
Sure.
have a time that they take the kids swimming. They have a splash pad.
Right.
But
I'm just thinking like the post, like events, if somebody wanted to rent it with a certain cost, you got the pavilion and then you got the pool.
Oh, my
there.
goodness, I
And,
know.
For
Yeah.
certain.
That would be like after hours.
After hours.
it would have to be
so
after
you're
hours,
charged.
but then
Right.
we'd have to get the lifeguards and that kind of thing.
That's a good idea, good thinking though.
Good
because
thinking.
The park is
Way to
just
generate
a
revenue.
huge asset
Yeah.
to this community.
I'm going to put that down as something to think about, future-oriented. But, the whole group thing, I haven't given it any thought, so I think we
Even
would
a
have
group of
to...
seniors, Rotterdam seniors want to come.
Yeah, it's a great idea. I think we'd have to probably do some digging around and some thinking, rather than trying to figure that one out right now.
But that came up and Shane said, and Julie helped out and everybody walked away happy, so.
Okay. Actually, Shane would be somebody we probably should have come to a meeting.
Yeah.
Or, I don't know who the other...
Julie,
Julie, is she
runs
the program director?
Yeah, she runs the pool.
All pools then.
Yeah.
She supervises the lifeguards.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is a good reason why we're meeting so early in the year, before summer of 2025. I think that's a really good...
Looking at.
I think that's a really good, so after our rentals, groups, and inviting Julie to another meeting is something we should do at a future meeting. So now, can we turn our attention to the rules for a moment?
Yep, we're on
So
the pool rules now.
It's only 5 o'clock, so we still have some time here. So do you want to look at these before we talk about them? Since I just gave this out to you, but...
I liked everything, and then under driver's license, we would also include New York State non-driver's license. Non-driver's
Like an ID,
license. Yeah, because people who don't drive go to motor vehicle get a passport or green card as well.
Okay, I didn't even think of that. That's great. Okay. I mean, I think the whole fog thing is too much for us right now.
I think so too. I think, you know, I don't know anything about, I don't know much about software programs, but I do know a mom trying to take care of six fobs or 6 IDs or,
Yeah.
you know, just give a name, boom,
Yeah,
a
Yeah.
photo comes up.
I agree.
But again, I don't know the costs involved in that versus,
So again,
you know, when I think of the sheriff's department, when they do when they fingerprint you or whatever, and they take your picture, and that's there, it's a program that they have, you know, I don't know if we have the capability of doing something like that, not as far as the fingerprints, but working that program into.
yeah. Well, I mean, again, that's something like, I mean, they did something over the weekend at the pool. I can't remember what it was now, but I mean, inviting the sheriff's department to come to the pool.
Oh, yes, they've been there.
Yeah, it's a good thing. It's a good thing. We're just finishing up a prior meeting, but you're welcome to stay. You're totally welcome to stay. Okay, so everything else in that first statement, does that
I
sound
don't know
okay?
what kind of,
I mean, we have to check with the school district about the IDs again, but that,
lifeguards, I was fine with that.
yep. Again, I still have the concern, which I mentioned at our last meeting. You'll see, okay, look at the next one. This is actually on the current rules. 2 or more adults 18 years or older must be present at the pool when the pool is in use with at least one adult on the pool deck. My question is, are those city employees or did that just mean,
No, I thought it was
Like your
for the
parents.
child, right?
except that
I know,
I didn't quite, I think that has to get clarified,
right.
what that is.
But
That's on our
I don't think
signage
it
now.
can be two or more adults.
Must be present at the pool with at least one adult on the pool deck, meaning that one of them might be inside the water with their kid. I didn't quite understand that. By the way, I put anything that was already existing on the signs at Central Park, I put in here, just so that we could talk about it. I didn't really understand that one.
No, I didn't either.
So, okay, this rule was on the sign.
That one is on the current sign.
So I would assume they're not employees because it's format for the public.
But so that raises a question, though, I raised this last time, which is that we're basically putting a lot onto these lifeguards who are teenagers. When you think about the fact that we are going to be asking them to enforce rules like no smoking, I'm just making that, you know, but I'm just saying, I mean, again, that's a question for Julie from the Boys and Girls Club, but it is asking a lot from teenage employees. They are going to have to be the people enforcing these unless we have an adult that is a city employee at the,
There are 2 policemen there every day,
I know.
police officers.
So I guess my fear is unfounded because the lifeguards can basically jump to the police. It's a topic that I think needs some more discussion.
I think that things need to be monitored as far as the restrooms, the changing areas.
I think our teenage employees actually do that. They have to go in. I mean, they have to go in and make sure that the toilet paper and all that kind of stuff is
Again, that's something we can find out
from Julie.
Yep.
Yep.
What their duties are, responsibilities.
Okay, so we're all good with number 2, lifeguards are the authorities at the pool.
Yep.
Right, Joe?
Yep. And 3.
Number 3, we have questions. We need clarification on number 3. Okay, now, this one seems to make sense to me. Children
Yes.
if they're not considered an adult, I think they have to be accompanied by an adult.
But, and then it's confusing because that 16-year-old, who's that 18-year-old and the one above it?
Well, see, that's where,
Yeah.
again, I had to looking at the other pools in the area, in our region. That's why I picked that I know.
Right.
So should it all be 16 or should it be 18?
If that 18 even applies to people swimming, not, I don't know. I gotta, until I know more.
The 18 thing, that makes.
I mean, and who's got 2 parents home or 2 adults during the day to go with a 14-year-old? Not a lot of
So
individuals.
on number 3, what do you think that year should be? Or should it?
I think we just need clarification on it. I mean, maybe that refers to the lifeguards. There could be one 16-year-old, but one 18-year-old at all times.
That's true. That's true. That's why I wasn't sure if they were city
Yeah.
employees. Okay. Actually, I'm going to pull up the photos that Paul sent us. Oops, that's not how you spell his name.
Paul, I think, or someone did have a concern.
There you go.
Last time we spoke about it, about a 16-year-old, with a parent, even 14-year-olds, right? Who's going to want to hang out with their guardian parent, an adult grandma at 14 years old. So did you notice anything else? I mean, that's the sign that's there now. Did you notice anything else as far as an age? I did not. You need it too.
Let me see here. This is going to sound pretty funny, but I'll get to it in a second when we get to that next one. But I'm looking at the existing sign. The existing sign. That one's on the existing sign.
Yeah.
2 or more adults, 18 years or older, must be present at the pool when the pool is in use, with at least 1 adult on the pool deck. Children less than 16 years. These are all. Let's just check those off. So that one, the next one, the children less than 16.
Well, I think we even talked about, you had a 16-year-old should be able to attend the pool on their own. I forget, we kind of passed that around last time as far as an age limit, maybe a 14-year-old. I don't see. I looked through a lot of the pool information you sent, and I didn't find anything.
Albany said children under the age of 13 must be accompanied by an adult.
I don't have Albany for some reason.
It didn't say Albany, it just said, it looks like
Okay.
this. I knew it was Albany because I printed it off there.
So I mean, I think we should bring, if we're going to redo this sign, bring it down to at least 13 or 14.
For children less than,
Yeah.
Okay.
13 or 14 years
I'm
of
okay with
age.
13 or 14. Which one do you like better? Again, we're just making recommendations.
13.
Okay, Joe, you okay with that?
Sure.
Now, the next one is wicked important as far as I'm concerned, the swim diapers.
They need, and I know they're expensive.
I know, so,
I know.
but we could figure that out also, because maybe we make sure that there's some swim diapers on hand. I don't know, I'm just saying, if we had to. But, I mean, we cannot let people with regular diapers into the pool. I mean, so if they're
I
not
know.
toilet trained, I mean, the risk of having,
And I think there are wraps that are, appropriate. Velcro wraps, I think.
this I thought was confusing, but Albany said, children under the age of 3 or not fully toilet trained must be wearing a swim diaper with a swimsuit or rubber pants
Right.
over the top of the swim diaper.
Yep.
Then it said, regular diapers are not designed for use in water, which I definitely knew.
I think that's very important. I don't like.
Colony also requires the swim diapers. Troy, by the way, their pools basically were closed, so that's why there's
Yes.
so little information from Troy. They were having a lot of issues.
Getting them to reopen and see.
And this is Guilderland. Children under the age of 5, they have to have life jackets, by the way. I don't think I put that in there. I didn't.
No, but I do see a lot of kids with the
Swimmy.
right, with that buckle in the back.
This says appropriate swim attire. Where's the thing about They didn't even put anything in theirs about diapers.
I mean, they do make a three-piece swimming diaper pants for $7.96 for 3 pieces, which are, I knew my granddaughter had them. They're more like just a wrap or something, so maybe swimming diaper pants or swimming diapers, yeah, which are a lot more inexpensive than these.
I mean, again, we could also see if there'd be something like a Schenectady Shares kind of thing, or something where somebody
That could
might
have
do a
them on
swim
hand.
diaper drive
Right.
that we would have on hand at the
Yeah.
pool, so that if
Right.
there really was somebody that couldn't afford the swim diaper.
I know, but I think it needs to stay in there.
Okay, all right. Ba, 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 ba.
And my next one is just under no smoking, chewing.
Oh, yeah, what about the
tobacco, or-
the appropriate swimwear made sense to me, too.
Yes.
You know, okay, so now, the no diving in shallow water, that's on our signs now, and that
Yeah.
absolutely makes sense. I mean, obviously, you don't want that for, you know, you don't want somebody to hurt themselves. Then this one, I actually changed the language because no running, horseplay, running on the pool deck, or foul language is allowed. Okay. No toys, flotation devices. And so in other words, we're talking about floats there, which would obviously take up a lot of room. Masks, fins, or inflatables.
And it hides the child. It's
Right.
a safety feature.
Right. Oh, this is the one that I thought was funny. So on our sign, right now, you're going to laugh because I do have my graduate degree, but I did not know what this word was. I had to look it up. Expectorating. You guys know what expectorating is?
Hawkers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what it says on our sign at the
Okay,
pool.
yeah.
I didn't actually know what that was, so I was just questioning whether somebody in 4th grade might know what that was, but
yeah.
maybe they do. So I changed it to spitting.
Good.
But it's no urinating, discharge of fecal matter, spitting, or nose blowing in the pool. That's basically on almost every other pool in the region.
Right.
No smoking. I added chewing tobacco.
I
but-
added vaping.
Oh, good one.
That way there, and that means whether it's marijuana or tobacco.
Well, I said no alcohol, or use of illegal drugs, but you do know,
It's a
although,
federal rate.
well, no, but right now, we already have no smoking
In the
at
park.
all in any of our parks. It doesn't, it's not necessarily enforced, but that's already a rule in the park, so I feel like it's fine to say this. No glass containers, obviously. The no coolers,
I know.
I had a little bit of an issue with.
Yeah, neither do I.
I mean, if you wanted to like come and have a picnic or, you know, be with your
Or
family and
provide
have lunch,
for your children.
I think the thing is that they must have to go outside the pool area. In other words, there's stuff outside the pool area. They'd be able to get back in, but I think it's tough. I mean, I guess we'd have to have the coolers though inspected on their way in.
Yeah, they would have to, people would have to.
Make sure there's
go
So
no
should we take out no coolers? Or, and we could add a line about coolers
We
getting
we have to think
inspected.
about that, yes.
Okay, well, let's think about it.
Because I'm always packing lunches. Always did for my girls.
Yeah, no, I mean,
Yeah.
it seems natural to me.
And I have a big problem with that ice cream truck being out there every day. Every day. You know, how do you say, well, you have to say no to your children. You have 3 kids, you got 1 kid, I mean, every day that ice cream truck is parked right in front. So I don't know what its permit entails it
I
to
don't
do
either.
on city streets, but I don't think it's appropriate, you know?
I think they do Steinmetz Park pretty much also. I think they're in
Right.
Steinmetz a
Well,
lot
of course,
also.
you know, because they, you know.
Well, yeah,
it's, I do know my daughter told me that in Kuroda, they do have affordable options for dollar menu options on the truck, including water and that, you know, but again, if you can't bring a cooler, you can't, you know, like, I'm sure there's water fountains your kids can drink at, but I want to make it, you know, affordable for everyone bringing
Yeah.
children there.
Okay, so those are issues for future.
Right.
The ice cream truck, water, I have to check, there is a water fountain.
Yeah.
There are water fountains. But that's a good idea too, low cost.
I mean, you
Again,
can't
when meet
tell
with
them.
Julie, they may actually, I mean, that could be a way that the Boys and Girls Club
Could raise.
I don't even want to go there in terms of health department, et cetera, but they might be able to do some sort of treats that they sell. They might want to sell
I mean, it's hard.
little,
Yeah.
like those things we have at Music Haven, those
Juice
the
boxes.
Welch's
Oh,
fruit
snacks.
snacks.
person can go to the concession stand and buy stuff.
Yeah, we don't have a concession
Things,
stand.
right, things to think about. I saw someone even rents cabanas, which is, I have no umbrellas or canopies or cabanas allowed.
Okay, we need to add that.
Yes. I see people marking their territory, and those tent cabanas are pretty big, and they're a good source of shade, because there's no shade there, other than by the changing area.
But we don't allow them now, right?
No, but they are there.
Okay. But that's a good point, though. If you had a little kid,
I know.
you might want to have an umbrella so that you have the...
And over here is only AstroTurf, that they can stick it in.
So we're going to have to talk about that one, I would say.
Maybe renting.
Well, I mean, we
Someone does that.
got to figure that out.
Yeah.
So no glass container. So the coolers one, we're going to question.
I think so.
No knives or firearms, that makes sense, right? No animals allowed in the pool area, also makes sense.
Except service animals.
Okay. And then all trash must be disposed of properly.
Yeah, I think you did a great job.
Yeah, thank you for doing that.
Then these waiting times, that is actually on the current signage.
So it must be from wait after last sight sound of storm.
It also, I just want to say, we have a sign that says, what's the method of summoning on-premise CPR staff, and what's the phone number for emergency, and it doesn't have it.
Okay.
It just has a blank line, so
What
we have
about
to get that
those
fixed too.
DFDs? Do we have those there?
The defibrillator?
Yeah, yeah,
I'll check that,
yeah.
and I also have to get them to add those
Chief
numbers.
was on that, right?
Yep, and he might be coming.
Yeah.
Well, there's a 911, there's a call 911 saving a life thing that's signed.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm trying to figure out where I saw that 30-minute wait thing. It must be on the food, it's on the food rules. Yeah, I mean, those things make sense, right? So if there's thunder and lightning, they're gonna make everybody leave.
Oh,
So
yeah.
what they're saying is there has to be a 30-minute wait.
Do they have to leave the fenced in
They have to
area?
leave the water, I don't know if they have to leave the fenced in
For some
area.
reason,
How do I access
The City Hall, City of Schenectady homepage. You mean, how do you watch it?
Samantha said that
It's right here.
oh, then I see, sorry. Can I get on there
for some reason, I saw them all walking out of the water.
I think that they might have to, I don't know.
Yeah, maybe not.
We'll have to find out. Where do they go? Okay, I think we're gonna have to stop for now. What else do you guys, do you have anything else before we stop?
I guess,
Anything before we call the end of the
so,
meeting?
no, when we do talk about bus trips or whatever, what's the ratio of adult, and I guess it's even in the pool now, what's the ratio of adult to child?
Well,
So
that's
can I
this,
bring 10?
I think this is this 2 or more adults thing must be present in the pool. That's one of the already
How many
existing.
children can I have there under the age of 13? Can I have?
We don't have any
kids
rules about that
myself?
right now.
No, I think that would be an issue, real adult, especially if we do that at summer camp busing, or even, can I walk in with 15 neighborhood kids?
We can find that out because it's the same like at NISI when they have field trips. There's a certain number of adults that have to be present for the field trips.
Right.
So that's a good ratio of adults to children for field trips.
Field trips are even just normal. Say,
Well, I'm calling it field trips under the group category.
right. But even on a regular walk-in basis, all of a sudden, I'm going to the pool with, I got four.
But you can only have,
No, I got 5 residents of the city of Schenectady. I'm responsible for,
We should probably get input from maybe more than those.
have to get that from Julie. Okay. All right, I'm
That's all
gonna
I
try to, well, actually, you took notes or,
I took some notes, some of your questions and the things that you did want. I didn't get the last part of
the notes there? Okay, so I will try to write up some of this too, and we'll just, you and I can communicate and we'll get it back out to everybody. We'll have to have another meeting. Okay, but thank you.
I mean, those were some of my things
Okay.
highlighted, but I do have one
Okay,
that you were going to down.
great. Okay, thank you.
Oh, Carmel.
I know, I was like, I had to set my alarm on my phone, actually.
Adjourn.
May I have a motion to adjourn?
I make the motion.
A second. All in favor? Aye. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms.
We are adjourned.
Good.
Let's standing room only.
That's okay.
It's like standing room only. Sorry. Can't come to church late? Not yet. do. I will.
Okay, great.
I'd like to call to order Schenectady City Council Committee meeting for Monday, August 19th, 2024. Before we go into our committees, we do have two presentations. First of all, we do have a really full room tonight, and I'd like to ask everyone to please silence your cell phones, make sure that they're off. And additionally, this meeting is for the council only, so we do not take comments from the public, and no applause, no amen corner, none of that. So first we're going to have our two presentations, and we'll start with Ms. Patrick.
Yes, the Schenectady Foundation has representatives here of the One Schenectady Community Change Council, which they've started. And we have some folks from the Community Change Council that are going to be making a presentation. I know Ms. Walsh is here. Who else is?
Christine Moore speaking, and Elise Martin speaking, and Shamima Bassam speaking. And we have other members of the council present.
Speakers, if you're going to be
So,
speaking,
yes.
come over here. If you're
So we
speaking,
need folks to come up here. There's a microphone.
who's to start?
Christine starts. All right, I'm on.
And I think you know, Christine, the microphone is for the people at home.
People that are-
Okay.
That's how it
Okay.
gets.
All right.
Sure.
Take it
Thanks.
away. Thank you. I am Christine Moore, and I am a member of the Community Change Council here with the Schenectady Foundation. And tonight we are going to present on One Schenectady, as well as our particular initiative, which is the Housing One Schenectady Together initiative. So who is the Community Change Council? We are a team of residents and leaders. We committed to participate in a process which we didn't quite know what it was to begin with, but folks just decided to come together through the foundation and all of the great work that they've done to discuss issues in our community where we could affect systems change. So in that process, we started off with a 3-day kickoff, which was, we included a consultant from the community science who came in to run that 3-day workshop back in March. Wow. So in that process, we were presented with a few different possible projects and narrowed it down to quality affordable housing. I missed the last point there, Elizabeth.
Oh, sorry.
I'm just,
Sorry.
and okay, so there's still 18 members now actively engaged, and there's still more interest coming. That was the part that I wanted to miss.
Sorry.
Next slide. So 90 days of action, what does that look like? So the community science basically gave us an outline to work from. We identified different areas that we needed to address and broke off into subgroups and began the work in 90 days. Now, it is quite a task to tackle housing in 90 days, especially when you're not, like myself, necessarily close to the problem with regard to some of the ways that it was presented. I would say that we're all close to the problem because we all want quality housing, so it involves all of us. But it wasn't an area that I had particularly tackled, but or some of the people on the committee hadn't tackled, but we were committed to 90 days of action, and so we started our process. So, next slide. Oh, part of that process was branding and marketing, deciding what exactly it is we were going to do. So we created a vision in which we envisioned a future where everyone in Schenectady can live in a healthy home that helps them thrive and unleash their full potential. So we all agreed that this is what we wanted the outcome of this initiative to be. So some of the challenges we faced were landlords, tenants, homeowners, neighborhood leaders, city staff. We all have these important roles to play in improving housing for the Schenectady, but we don't always communicate in ways that are going to get us towards improving housing here. So we sort of tackled that problem through community engagement. One of the committees that we had was research and policy. So that committee went out and did particular work in looking at benchmarking existing policies around housing and trying to find the gold standard that we could learn about and then model here in Schenectady. Through the work that I did on the engagement, I leveraged my resources from Albany, and we were put in touch with the United Tenants Association, which doesn't serve Schenectady to the capacity that it serves Albany, but is yet serving the capital region, and did have some data to report back to us. But what we found is they had this tool called the Albany Landlord Report Card, and it was aligned with what we were discussing in our initial 3 days of action, and so we decided to move forward with exploration on how a model like this could be applied here in Schenectady. Another component of our work was mapping out our rich resources in Schenectady around housing and creating an ecosystem, which if you happen to have one of our handouts, you'll notice the ecosystem there, or you'll see it up on our slideshow. So this is a work in progress. There are lots of organizations that may not be identified here in this ecosystem, so it's potential to build on it, but this was our starting part and looking at some of the resources that we have and how they're connected around housing here. So second step was to meet with SLIC, and I see Chris Morris is here. So we had the opportunity to present at their August meeting, I believe, and to hear feedback and to offer an opportunity to engage in the process of developing the landlord tool, the landlord app. We're calling it Lease. So I just want to highlight that relationship a little bit because it wasn't smooth sailing when we started. There are a lot of there's a lot of things that have happened over the past few years between landlords and tenants in terms of relationships that needs to be rebuilt, and conversations need to be opened so that we're working together to provide landlords with good tenants that they need and our tenants with good homes where they need to live. So this, I'm proud to say that if within those 90 days of action, that win is a big one because we're continuing the conversations as we move forward with building the tool that will help uplift good landlords in our area. Step 3, I feel like we skipped over some stuff, and I'm sure we did. It was a jam-packed 90 days. So we started digging into some of the items that are needed to prioritize what we want to learn through the application. We want to provide information about rental properties and recognize that landlords who comply with the city codes. So we need a lot of folks in this room on board. We did create a community survey to make sure that this is something that our residents actually wanted, and Elise is going to present on some of that survey data for us shortly, and maybe just now. So.
Thank you so much. My name is Elise Martin. I work in housing over at Schenectady Community Action Program, or SCAP. So you can see we had a really great response to our survey, 220 responses. The majority of them are from renters, about a third of them from homeowners, and we also had some landlord feedback as well. No surprise that the #1 priority for everyone who is responding is the cost of housing when they're looking at where they're going to be moving, and then the quality of housing. So is it safe? Does it pass code? Is it in some place that makes me feel safe? Does it have the amenities I need on a first floor, washer, dryer, hookups, etc.? And then the responsibility of the landlord to be responsive and building that working relationship in the beginning. So that's what our community is prioritizing. And you can see that when we checked in to ask if they were interested in some type of tool that similar to the one that Albany has, around 70% said yes, they would be interested and it would be helpful for them when either trying to address challenges that they have in their housing currently or when they're looking for new housing. So a little bit more about what would go into this tool. So on the next slide, there's a list of the type of data, so just a couple examples here, and this is in the handout, so you can read further. Eviction information, code violation information, this would all get fed into the report card to create a unified, easy-to-read score. And the next steps for this project, we are looking to engage stakeholders. So we're here today, like we mentioned, we've been talking with the landlords, we've been engaging the community, so making sure this is really well-rounded and that everyone's voice is at the table. Looking for funding for the actual application, and then working in partnership to build out the tool. All right, and I'm going to hand it over to wrap up our presentation.
I guess it's 5 seconds.
We do need you, I'm sorry, to come over here so that you can be on the camera.
So,
You might be able to bring that, you can-
Go right over here.
do you want to bring your laptop with you?
is it okay? Hello? How's that?
Yeah, it's just for the folks at home.
So, as we're going to be starting on our next step, thank you for hosting us today. We want to continue to improve and increase contact with the community overall, just building these relationships and highlighting the intersectionality of oversight and federally distributed funds and programs for people, the consumer, is why I'm so proud to be part of an agenda that includes the community. So we want to highlight that we are here to construct relationships, and that we're still managing data and collecting data. And so they've already laid a lot of groundwork on the first 90-day action, engaged most of the people that are here today, but also it reflects that when the community is included in things that concern them and their quality of life, it's important to make sure that we have a base, a collective that not just collects that information, but we create constructive solutions for people here, especially we're a largely urban community, and a lot of the people represented by community members here can tell you and agree that it's people that run the economy, and we're happy that Schenectady is now recognizing that the foundations that are here, agencies that are already been established, can come together and agree that helping consumers and residents have a place and have recourse for their concerns as consumers is important. So during the first 90 days, they took action by building the database that they're calling LEAS, and also making identifying our assets. So I just want to make sure I was using the right word. The ecosystem, our ecosystem that includes, yes, that includes the community and agencies that have already placed their efforts toward agendas like ours, and consumers and local tenants and local community members who are largely consumers here in Schenectady. So we want to highlight that we're building relationships that are geared toward the community. Thank you for sharing your space, by the way. So before you move on to the next slide, I just want to make sure that we also are proud to include that in the data that we've already collected, there's 220 surveys that are completed already. We want to make sure that the presence of the ecosystem intersectionality, and that the place for community members, tenants, residents, longtime contributors to the local economy have a place that they feel safe to breathe, a place that they know they will not only be recognized, but that their issues as consumers are going to have the proper oversight and the proper attention, and that we know the resources are already here for us to allocate a equitable experience for all tenants of the local community. So where I'm going to use my slide here. Am I okay in the slide?
Yeah, and just the next steps.
So the next steps are obviously to continue the survey. The survey is going to be geared toward making sure we've explored every aspect of the consumer experience, every aspect of tenants and local concerns for the quality of life, the availability of housing, the responsiveness of the housing authority. And I know personally that my pursuit of fair housing I've encountered many barriers. And I just want to be the voice of concern for people who haven't found a place or an agency where it's directly geared toward their consumer concerns. But mailing, applications, hundreds of dollars to send applications, the barriers that people will encounter, the responsiveness of landlords and authorities. This is all barriers that they cost the consumer so much. When you're participating in a HUD program or federally funded program, you know that we have a deadline, you know we have requirements, and that these tenants, we all have to live and be required to prove that we add up to a standard, that we were required to prove that we can provide a certain standard or consistency for that landlord. And so we hope that that's going to be an equitable experience for all consumers, and especially the local tenants and people who feel like they haven't had a voice or a place they can breathe their issues. So thank you for your time. Does that cover all the next steps?
Do we take any questions?
Yeah, let's take questions.
Yeah. I'll go back to Kristen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
The housing one's Schenectady together.
I'm wondering if there's anyone from SLIC and/or from the Schenectady Municipal Housing Authority that have been a part of the 15 or 18 people that have been putting this together.
SLIC, no. Housing Authority, no. So initially, in the initial group with for the systems change movement, before the housing issue was decided, it was open to any resident from the county, I believe, city of Schenectady, to choose to participate and be a part of a systems change movement. So that core body, those 18 people, are the people who stuck with it throughout the 90 days of action, whether housing was their personal issue that they brought in the initial survey or not. It was a collective agreement to move forward. Since then, engaging with the city council, identifying the folks in the ecosystem who need to have a seat at the table to talk about housing issues, that was part of the 90 days in the process. So in that process of presentation with the SLIC, as well as continuing our relationship with SCAP, there were particular rules and regulations with this committee, and that if you had certain decision-making abilities through your role or position, that you weren't a voting member. So, we got stars if we could vote, and if you were considered in a position of power over the group dynamic, then you weren't given a voting privilege. you have more?
Oh, yeah, just want to say, so SCAP and SLIC have been acting as advisory to it because it is community-led. So we're at the table, we're meeting together, but the direct work is coming from the community members.
And I will add that if you did complete this survey, or it still is open, if you haven't, there is a place to indicate whether or not you would be interested in contributing to the Housing One Schenectady. I know there's a lot of conversations regarding the lease app and how we will weight the system so that it's fair and equitable and achieves the goals that we want it to achieve collectively. It is not meant to be the Albany model here applied in Schenectady. This is meant to actually build upon the Albany model and improve it so that it's a resource that we want to use.
Mr. Farley?
Yeah, so first of all, thank you for this important work. I really appreciate the community engagement aspect of this. I did hear words like intersectionality and equity, which I'm always excited to hear. I'm just wondering, like, during the survey, what type of demographic information are you collecting to ensure that equitable working across intersectionality to ensure like that like are you guys like your social economic gender race, like what type of demographic information is part of the survey to ensure?
Elizabeth, do you have any specifics just about what was collecting?
So didn't get the slide in there with zip codes. We have zip codes. There's not a lot of demographic information in there.
But we did extend the survey because we noticed that the zip codes that were responding were not the target demographic that we were looking for. So we're doing specific targeting in Hamilton Hill, Mount Pleasant, et cetera, to make sure that we're getting a large scope as well as making sure we're getting homeowners, tenants, and landlords.
So just one more thing. So, so and I can see like you got to be careful when you're doing surveys because people don't like taking them if you ask them a whole bunch. So I wanted to say that too. That's not lost to me. So the landlord report card piece, is that like, so what does that mean for a landlord? Is this just like more like a marketing tool for a landlord to say, hey, I'm A+ rated by this entity? Or is there any other type of incentives or things outside of that?
Yeah, I mean, we've talked in brainstorming that this could pull in resources for them, and we've talked about different grant fundings and foundation money. You know, could this lead to you're eligible for certain funding if you meet a certain rate? It is also good. We talked a little bit about like HUD requirements. So if you're high rated on this, you're likely to be able to get a voucher program, which is a great setup for a landlord to get that direct payment because you've probably done all the things you need to do to have your apartment pass inspection. So it's about keeping your apartment up so you have opportunities for all these things. So I think it lays a good foundation for us to use as like a unified tool across the community, and I think have other possibilities.
Thank you.
So in regards, I see the priorities issues were the housing costs, quality of housing. In the context of the ecosystem, what were some of the issues identified of responsiveness, what was working well, what were agencies, or the needs of residents being met, areas of breakdown that we could focus on?
Yeah, so that's kind of our next step. Right now what we built out is the ecosystem, and we are pulling in people from different areas of the community to make sure that we have everything on the map that we need. And we're looking at what the connections are, both formal and informal, and then building out that resource to see what the gaps are. So those are our next steps.
That's it?
All right, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. And to members of the public, I saw somebody raise their hand, so if you got the contact information, you can contact them directly and ask any questions you have about the program. Thank you. Next, Mr. Waller will give us some information on is he here in the room?
Must be on his way down, that's clear.
He was here.
I thought he was as well. Okay. Yes, is that you?
Yes.
Okay, that's not Mr. Waller, Mr. Trincy, over here.
I'd like to talk to my hands.
You need it so that you can be heard. Yeah.
So I'm Brian Trincy, the building inspector for the city of Schenectady, and along with that comes a floodplain hazard manager. So I am appointed floodplain hazard manager. So there's been some inquiry from council about some of the development that's going on in the Mohawk Harbor. And we've had some inquiry ourselves with DEC, and that brought up some discovery. There's been a passing of the torch at DEC. There's a new state floodplain manager there, and he has some inquiry of how that has been managed and developed in Mohawk Harbor. So we have been gathering documents and supplying them to DEC, and my predecessors, from what I've been coming up with and discovering, have managed that properly. Mohawk Harbor was brought out of the floodplain elevation with fill, and this took care of most of the properties that had been developed before I was here at the city. And my intention moving forward is to keep managing this development properly, and making sure the proper documentation and surveys are prepared as this development moves forward. So what sparked this inquiry and development about floodplain development here is the dock project that we have at Mohawk Harbor. And that will, I think Chris Wallen is here to elaborate on that dock project. But I did want to answer any questions that I could about the floodplain management.
Right, so we all received an email which prompted some of the questions. So at this point in time, I know, do you have any specific questions, Mr. Mancini?
Well, from the email, it looked like that there was some concern on the part of the state. And so I wanted to, kind of understand that a little bit better, and where we were in that process, and is that going to hold up this project in any way?
So I'll lean to Chris on the dock project. He can follow me up when we talk specifically about the dock project. That plan is 100%, and he's very familiar with the engineering side of that. I'll pass it on to you to answer that question.
Yeah, so the docks, we are designed and we were ready to go to bid. However, the DEC, during their review, asked for a flood survey to make sure that the installation of the piers, there are 6 18-inch piers, they want to make sure that that does not impact the flood elevation, the final flood elevation of the river. We do not think there's really any way that it could, given that they are 18-inch cylindrical round piers in the riverbank. However, they want to see the calculations. They want to see us go through that step. I have a meeting with our consultant Wednesday morning to go through it, but it's similar to what we had to do for Mohawk Harbor, or what Gillespie Group had to do for Mohawk Harbor, just on a much smaller scale. We are going to get their report. So if you remember when we took Mohawk Harbor out of the floodplain, now you're taking area out of the floodplain that otherwise would flood. So they want to make sure you're not going to impact areas that would flood and put your flooding elsewhere. That's why that when we raised Mohawk Harbor's base elevation of ground, they also had to pull the riverbank back, because they had to do a calculation to say that if we're going to take away this volume, we have to add the volume in a similar capacity so that we don't increase the risk of flooding to the stockade or to the surrounding areas. So it's a similar study, just on a much smaller scale that we have to do, because the rest of everything else is not permanent. The docks are meant to float up or float down, and then in the winter season or non-canal season, they're removed from the river. So the only thing that will be left in the river permanently are these 6 cylindrical piers. And they're actually existing above what's called the average high water mark. So they're not actually in the river, but in a flood situation, they are in the flood zone. So they would be. So we have to do this additional study. It will delay us a little bit, but it is what it is. It's what was requested.
Anyone else? Okay. Well, thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
Next committee is public safety.
So I'd like to call to order the Public Safety Committee. We have one item on the agenda tonight, that is revisiting a discussion about reducing the city speed limit to 25 miles per hour and other traffic safety measures. Mr. Patrick.
Yes, thank you. So we've been talking about this since August of 2022. I'm hoping that we will get to the point where we can actually make a decision about whether we're going to reduce the speed limit to 25 miles per hour. I think it was 2 meetings ago, we requested that Mr. Wallen, Mr. Cannon, and Lieutenant Brian
Ripple? Is it Ripple or Nowicki?
Yeah, Benduga would come and talk with us today and make some recommendations about the reduction in the speed limit. So, take it away, Mr. Wallen.
I will try to be brief, but this is not so much that, but so much a lot of things all at once. So I'm going to kind of hit you with some information, and then you guys can think about the information. We can come back. I do not want you to think of this as a one-off. I am here every other week, so you can always ask for another update. So we're going to call this an update, because this is what we're going to do. Traffic safety update. I've been meeting now with Brian Cannon and Brian Benduga. I tried to print these for you, but my printer did not work with it, and I can hand it out in the future. But this is what I'm calling our traffic safety update. So I want to make sure we're asking the right questions when we're around this table. The question shouldn't be how do we reduce speed, right? It's how do we increase safety. So the number one goal when you meet with the MPO or meet with anybody is how do we reduce serious injuries, fatalities. So speeding is a part of that. But the number one metric that everyone uses is serious injuries, fatalities. Then you have speeding, you have minor accidents, and I know around this table you also want to reduce your complaints, because that's what we hear from the public. We are not alone in this. So I am just part of a bigger cog here. So we work with the DOT, we work with our MPO, which is the Capital Region Transportation Council, we work with federal highways, we work with the CDTA, we work with the Regional Planning Commission, and I'm sure I'm forgetting a bunch of people. You know, we work with the county, we work with community groups, but these are the main people. What we're talking about is not a city issue. It is a national issue. It is a state issue. It's a worldwide issue. It's just we're focused on the city. So I don't do this alone. I have lots of people to support me, and this is also something that lots of people are also working on, even in the city. Always talk about the 3 E's. I am 1 E. I am engineering. We have education, and we have enforcement. Education is always the hardest one. If everybody knew to cross on a crosswalk and wait, if everybody knew to push a button, if everybody drove the speed limit, you know, sometimes what they say is new laws are not the solution, just obey the laws that are there. That's tough, all right? And a lot of it falls on engineering, right? If nobody's going to obey the law, if we don't have the staff to enforce the law, then we got to engineer it so that people obey by the law, and that gets difficult. This is some data that the SPD provided me. I just wanted to show it. This is a summary of the tickets issued last year and where we are to date of the tickets issued this year. It's a lot of information. That's why I tried to get it in a printout for you, but I will express it. But on the most part, we seem to be trending very similar. Just to let you know, equipment, I had it, you'll see the kind of a, whereas 20% and 20%, so let's get, the numbers are actually identical in that year. And equipment is too loud of a car, muffler, noise, and then tinted glass, things like that. That is what equipment is. It's issues with your vehicle. And then right-of-way is if you're driving the wrong way on a road, if you're cutting through a parking lot, if you're doing anything kind of in the right-of-way illegally, but not within essentially the road itself. That was right-of-way. So those were the 2 that aren't as self-descriptive as I like. But this is where we are today. We use a track system to do these things. We've also just signed up to make sure we have it into the CLEAR database, which tracks accidents in a geographic GIS database. And all this information is being provided to the mayor's office for his reports, and we are starting to look at it for future implementation. This is one of the things I want to tell you when I say that we're all working together. I had a meeting, which I'll talk about briefly, but I had a meeting last week at the MPO, the Capital Region Transportation Council, and this is the information they have just for the city of Schenectady. Using the CLEAR system, using all the data that's available, they already have areas here that are in the city that they think are issues and they want us to look at. So I just take this list and go one step farther. When I met with them, they were happy to see that I already know about this. We don't know we're working on this. This is things that we're doing. So Crane Street, Albany Street, that was on the top of their list, and they said, hey, do you want to do a Lincoln study? And I said, we already did a Lincoln study. They said, okay, great. They go, what about Eastern Avenue? I go, we already replaced the signal at Eastern Avenue. And they go, okay, now we're 0 for 3, right? Albany Street, Brandywine, North Elm, we do have an area there that we're looking at. That's the next phase of it, but we already did Albany. Liberty, that's the same area with that. City of Schenectady down here, the South Avenue, Brandywine, we just did that. That was an HSIP project. So we don't have to go through the whole list, but it's just to show you that I didn't generate this list. This list was generated by one of our third party that is interested in also helping us get highway safety money and seeing crashes. Would you see potential for safety improvements? So the higher the number, the better, and killed and seriously injured down. So this is a metric that they use when they rate giving us federal money. Current tools. These are all the things that we're currently doing. Enforcement, we have PD. We have radar signs. We just bought some more for school zones. We have variable message radar signs. They're the signs out there that say high traffic area. Those also have a radar component. They can take data. We have the temporary speed tables that we purchased, and we have the optical sensors, AKA the smart nodes that we've deployed throughout the city. All of these allow us to collect data and to try to push everything together. Even talking with Brian Cannon, he shared with me, abundant amount of data that the optical nodes gave us for some of the areas that we were looking at, which broke down percentile speeds, average speeds, high speeds. So that's what we're looking at. Those are the tools that we currently have. I don't see anybody from SPD here, but they always say they could always use more enforcement. So more people on the street, the more enforcement that you have. Potential tools. All right, these are kind of what, Carmel, you'd like to talk about. So I numbered them a little bit, right? So we have the reduction of the citywide speed limit. How do we do that? City resolution. We have permanent speed tables. How do we do that? I'd like to come up with a city procedure and possibly a resolution depending on what we need. Then we have implementation of red light cameras and implementation of school zone cameras. Both of these, I don't have this tool. I think it's bigger, but I know that we talked about home rule last time, but it's something there. So, the number one that we've been talking about for 2 years, right? The reduction of the speed limit. So like I said, I had a meeting on August 15th with the Capital Region Transportation Council, and they're conducting about the Vision Zero plan, which was a federally funded plan through the Safe Streets for All grant program. So we're part of that plan, which includes many safety metrics, which is also where that table came from. What they'd like to do is take a couple select areas of the city, look at it, do some reports, and get some traffic data on those areas. One of the big things that I want to share with you that is going to help us with this is that previously we have done a speed study. We did it on Kings Road, and we did it on Rugby Road. And I sat here and I said that using the DOT, the New York State DOT metrics, it was not applicable to reduce the speed on a road like Kings Road. It didn't meet the metrics. The federal guidance is relaxed over the state guidance. The federal guidance will allow us to reduce speeds on roads like Kings Road, on roads like State Street, on those major roads. So I'm going to show you that what I want to do right now is focus on the non-local. So I'm going to show you another. This is called functional class, all right? Little lesson in roadways a little bit. All these colorful roads are functional roads. They're arterials, they're collectors. You know them as the main roads in the city. If a road on this map is not green, blue, or red, it's a local road. If we were not the city of Schenectady, if we were the village or town of Schenectady, we would not have the authority to change the speed limit on a lot of these roads. If you hear about the town of East Greenbush, Village of Scotia, and even reducing their speed limit, they do not have the jurisdiction or authority to reduce the speed limit on county and state roads. So all they did is reduce it on local roads. If that's all you were asking as a council was to reduce the speed limit on local roads, we could do it today. But I don't think that's a further action you want to take, because a local road and the roads, they're a little bit different. But I just wanted to show you the differences. I am not concerned about local roads. Local roads should be 25. I don't have a problem with that. It's these colorful roads that I just want to make sure if we're doing this, hopefully one time, everybody on the same page, reduction, that I get these roads right. So then we get into, oh, it's gone. I don't know where it went to. This is a map of the city with these two roads, and there should be a map there, but it's gone. So the two roads right now that Brian Cannon and I were looking at, if you can use your imagination, are to be designated as 30. This is what, just based off of the information that I have, is right now, this red line you see here is State Street. That section of State Street goes from the city line to Fair Avenue. That section of State Street is 35 miles per hour. It is the only and the longest section of the city that is 35 miles per hour. It is a commercial corridor. It is mostly commercial with very little residential. Brian and I talking, we did not feel that that section is warranted to go down to 25, but we do think that we could reduce it to 30. After Fair Avenue, the character of the street does change, and we would be looking to possibly go to a 25 or possibly segment it more, possibly like from McClellan Street. Maybe you go 30 to McClellan, and from McClellan all the way to the city line again at the Western Gateway Bridge goes to 25. But these are the things I wanted to talk about with the engineers before we come to the council with a recommendation. The other little squiggly line you see up there, that is Maxon Road Extension. Maxon Road Extension has no residential. It is a gateway to the city. It leads to Erie Boulevard, which is state controlled, which has a 40-mile-an-hour speed limit. So it would also, if we were to leave that, it would also hopefully funnel traffic away from such of the residential districts and on the Maxon and to Erie Boulevard in there. As you notice, I do not have Erie Boulevard on here. Erie Boulevard is an enigma to me. We do not own Erie Boulevard from the roundabout north. We own Erie Boulevard from the roundabout south. If this was 13 years ago, before I was city engineer, I would tell you that I would not recommend it be 25 miles an hour. I would recommend it would be 30 plus. However, we have seen, since I've been here and since the mayor has been mayor and since a lot of us have been here, Erie Boulevard has really transformed from commercial into residential. We have Electric City, we have the apartments, the Fusco Apartments, where the old car wash used to be. Now we have Wedgeway. We have a lot more residential on that area. And also with the density, is really anybody going that fast during peak times? I'm not sure. So that's an area I would like to look at because it has transitioned from a primarily commercial into a half residential. So I would like to look at that area. But this is what we're talking about. We're not talking about waving a wand and saying everything's 25. I just want to look at it and make sure that we're getting it right. And then this also goes into what we talked about, Brian and I, about signage. Where we have 30-mile-per-hour zones will affect where our signage is. So if we have a 30-per-hour street, we have to make sure that street is 30. So we still have to change these signs because right now it says 35. So all the 35s come down, all the 30s come up. Brian and I were talking about the streets off of it. We just want to make sure if we put up those signs that say 25 mile per hour unless otherwise noted, do we need to put 25 on those streets coming off? I need to have a conversation about that. And then Brian has been working on with John Coluccio on a number for the budget for what we want. And the number is not as large as I had thought, which is good because I think that by doing more, we're lessening our load, but it's still not enough. If you wanted to talk about it at all, I mean,
It's just a quick, my estimation is around 15 to 20K, $15 to $20,000. Upwards of $20,000. I'm hoping as we get into things, we can keep it a little closer to the 15, but crunching the numbers, I believe it's right in that range.
That's good.
So that's what we're looking at with regard to the speeds. We'll go to the end, but so this is where we are with speed right now. We're hoping to have everything done by the end of this year, even though the Vision Zero plan is actually going to go to June. I asked them to roll it up so that we have it, and we're working with them to make sure that we get all of our signage and things in place. So the next thing, Tool 2, this came up. I wanted to make sure this is a kind of a discussion point. Speed tables. All right, I remember the council asked 2022, 2023, we wanted to implement a speed table. Wayne Avenue was our location for the speed table. This is just a map of where it shows. You can see MLK School, Wayne Avenue, and I'm calling them 1 and 2, and then we have a stop sign in the middle. Stop sign's important because it's not a straight through, you do have to stop. This is what the speed tables look like. They're a very nice product, a little labor intensive to put down, but once they're down, they're down. And it is very, we got the high visibility one, it's a very nice product. PD did data pre and post using the radar cameras, and here is a summary of what they have. So I just wanted to, I've got a bunch of notes on here. The period data was taken in, where was it, July? So no school, but in July. And then the post data was in June. School was in session the following year after the bumps were. If you notice, the traffic was actually up. I just wanted you to notice that because the volumes were up. Not huge, but up. And the speeding numbers and the average speeds were actually down. So we do think in the report that SPD put together did deem that the speed tables were effective. So you can see that we went from 11% over to only 0.4%.
That's great.
Our westbound similarly, westbound was always a little higher. The other part of it is our peak speeds, 70 miles per hour down to 59, 79 miles per hour down to 61. And on top of all this data that we have, we did not receive one complaint over the 3.5-month installation. And so I think that it was a good program. I think it's something that we have to look at. So I put this together, right? So speed tables can provide traffic calming in the right application. So this is where I would push back here, right, is that I don't want to legislate for my office. Does the city council want to install permanent speed tables? If we do, then the city, myself and Brian and SPD, we can work together to give some locations. But if we are also going to allow the public, I have an example of, you might have seen this a couple years ago if you want to pass it around, it's one sheet, of what I really would like to get put into place for us to adopt, which is an implementation guide. This guide is what the city of Rochester uses. Chief Whipple found it last year. I think it is just a terrific guide for something so that we can control the requests of it. You know, if the city, if Brian and I and the police are going to put something in, it's already going to be based off of this information. So the city will be following this information, but we just want to make sure that similarly to the sidewalk program and things, that if somebody wants to request something, that it's done in a more of a cohesive, organized manner and not at this table and not through emails and maybe what's the see, click, fix. The only thing I do want to point out with this is restrictions. This is a nice little map I put together quickly about where right now I would not advise. So we have what's called priority streets in the city. Priority streets are usually come into effect when the plowing comes.
Right.
You want you off the street when it's plowed. But priority streets are also our priority streets. If you were to know, they're here. They're most of our main roads. We also have an engineering what's called a primary street, which is essentially an expansion of the primary street network. It's just not as important for the plow routes. And these are the roads in the city that I would recommend that if we're putting together some legislation to say it, that we would, these are off limits. We can do maybe other traffic calming measures, but that speed tables and speed humps, we remove that from the, and I tried to be judicious with it. You know, I try to, you know, like where do you go? We can talk about it in Norwood, you know, right by Mount Pleasant. Norwood is speeding. It's not a primary. It's not a priority. That could be a main road that we look at doing something like that about working with the school district. There are roads, secondary roads like that, that could be effective with speed bumps, but I just want to make sure that we're doing it in a way, and I can't deny that they did work. They did work in the right application, so I don't want to take that off, I just want to talk about that. And then the last thing that we have, tools 3 and 4, they're speed enforcement cameras and speed enforcement both for red lights and school zones. I talked to Bill Trudeau, who is the signal superintendent in the city of Albany. He has been there for, I believe, 30 plus years. He says that they do have 20, and they were legislated for 20 in school zones, so they have 20 and 20. They had to pick what school zones they're just going into this year, I believe. This is going to be their first year with them. But the red light cameras at the intersection have been functioning. So this is a tool that we currently don't have, but it's something that if we feel that it's effective, we could make an effort for, but I don't have the roadmap to get to this. So with that, that's my as quick as I can be of speed safety in the area. We are starting to meet more regularly. I am meeting with the MPO. I think that Vision Zero plan is good, but I just want to, you know, like, these are things like I tried to show on that slide that my office and with Brian coming on board, these are things we're already doing. We've already taken traffic and safety, and, you know, we kind of lead the region in federal aid money, HSIP money, safety money, but it's something that it's like drinking from a fire hose. There's a lot of need in the city, but we are trying to do it. So in this presentation, I can update it. We can try to go forward. A lot of the information is going to be updated in the mayor's monthly Smart Cities reports going forward, so that can be made available through his office. So I guess I'll open it up to questions at the time.
As always, thank you. That was a nice, thorough presentation. And then I think it very much highlighted that to your point, there's already measures being taken by the city. And I thought the other foot stomp that I would make is that this is not an issue that Schenectady in of itself is only experiencing. This is a national issue. So at that time, I'd like to open it up to any questions or comments.
Yeah, so echo on that wonderful, very informative presentation. So the question is, so there's some things that are in our control, right? There's some things that we can do as far as the speed tables, which I think was really, showed them to be quite effective. And I'm thinking about like someplace like Kings Road in particular, which is, extremely high traffic road. So my question is, we're talking about the possibility of reducing citywide speed limit. I'm saying, so what type of graduated interventions would be appropriate for a place like Kings Road? Because talking to the residents, there was like a request for a stop sign more than the overall reduction of the speed limit in that area in particular. So I'm wondering, like, through the course of that traffic study that we did it meet the requirements for maybe a stop sign instead of, as we're doing this more comprehensive piece?
Yeah, so that's one thing. Stop signs are not on my list of tools because they're not a tool, and we did look at it. It did not meet the merit for a stop sign. I have a hard time, I talked about this with Brian, and I've talked about this a little bit internally, is that as a judicial body of the city of Schenectady, you are in your own right to put a stop sign up. It is in the city of Schenectady. However, as the city engineer with a license, I cannot sign off that it would be a compliant MUTCD stop sign. However, I've sent the articles out. Municipalities have done this. People have said that it's in the greater need of the community that we put this up, and that's what we go forward with as a stop sign. We would prefer, Brian and I were talking about it just a little bit, is that now with this, once again, another tool is that Kings Road with the DOT measures was not able to technically be reduced, but with the federal measures, we now can reduce the speed on Kings Road. We did just put up new signage on Kings Road, slow signage on the Kings Road last week. So we would like to see that between the reduction of the speed limit on that road, if it's recommended, which most likely will go that route, and then the new signage, what happens there. We did put the crosswalk there. We have tried to make it, narrower. We do have the guide rail. We're trying to put all the tools up there that we can. I believe the police have had radar signs up there. But the stop sign is not one of them. That's why it was specifically left out, and it has been discussed a couple of times.
Okay, so the speed tables wouldn't be appropriate for Kings Road?
I don't think speed tables would be appropriate for Kings Road, no.
What have we done, or is there more we could do in the way of public education and putting a message out there? Speed kills and other campaign.
One of the groups that I'm involved in that I didn't have up there that I actually meant to is like the Governor's Traffic Safety Board and some of the county sheriffs, and they do a lot of, I was on the committee that started the See and Be Seen campaign, and that started with HSIP money for Central Avenue 8 years ago, and that's been pretty successful. I mean, if we need materials, the state offices will give us all the materials. I know that SPD does, I don't want to call it fake ticketing. I don't know the word that they call it, but they go out and they'll do like an educational ticketing thing. Also, the sheriff's office has done that, where they'll actually, if they catch you jaywalking, they'll give you like a CNBC ticket, which is kind of like a fake ticket to say, hey, this is a violation, you should cross in the crosswalk, things like that. So like I said, there are a lot of partners out there. One of the areas that the sheriff's office at our monthly meeting is up Division Street, which was on the list, by the McDonald's and the bus stop. That is a really heavy area for pedestrian traffic. They go up there, they do targeted areas up there to try to do enforcement and education events. That's one of the reasons that we're looking at working with the CDTA, which is why it's up there, to try to move the bus stops to try to stop all the different things there, because we have people running around buses. But education would be great. I don't know if you wanted to...
Well, yeah, I did not have a chance. I was hoping to do that before today's meeting, but one of the ideas, which I thought I was trying to think outside the box and be a little creative. I ran it by Chris because I thought maybe this is a little too wacky. Chris actually didn't think it was too wacky. So, I don't know if anyone has ever taken a defensive driving class. I took my last one during COVID, when we first started at COVID, sitting there, I figured, okay, don't really have a lot that I can do today, I'm going to do this defensive driving. I definitely noticed a change in my behavior after I took that defensive driving class. So one of the ideas that I had was trying to see whether I could get a defensive driving course taught for free. So in other words, like you can get defensive driving through AAA, you can get it in a number of places. I was hoping that maybe I could get it so that either we would think about putting a certain pot of money together when we do our budgeting for 2025, where maybe we would pay for defensive driving, or if I could just get somebody to actually donate the defensive driving, that if we could do that as an incentive to get people to take the defensive driving, that at least it might be one dent in, no, that was no pun intended, but one way of trying to get people to think more about their driving habits. I know that when I first started this back in August of 2022, the first people I called were the chief of police, because I didn't know if it was just a crazy idea also around lowering the speed limit. The chief really felt that if we could lower the speed limit, that maybe we'd get people going 30. If the speed limit was 25. It also might be easier for them to, again, if people were going, let's say 40, in a 25 mile an hour speed zone, the police have more latitude in terms of ticketing, which hopefully then would also be a deterrent and might help to change some of these behavior. Because I definitely agree, Chris mentioned this earlier, that out of those E's that we've heard about now several times over the last couple of years, education and behavioral change is going to be the toughest part of this. So that was the one idea that I had shared with Chris the other day.
And I will bring this up, it is not in the presentation, but stay tuned for future presentations because it's going to be a bigger issue, is that there's a new buzzword out there called micro-mobility. And micro-mobility is electronic scooters, skateboards, balls, wheels, bikes. It's all of the things that go 30 miles an hour and are not registered vehicles. And I don't want to, that's an entirely side conversation, but it is also part of this.
Yes.
Because it's unregistered vehicles at speeds, on sidewalks, on roads, and it does affect traffic and safety. So as a region, we bring it up, we're trying to figure it out. I know SPD has a hard time with it because there's classifications, there's a lot of things that go into it, but that eventually will be up here, and I don't know what the tool will be, but more and more you're going to be seeing that. And that's the term of it is called micro-mobility.
Yeah, that definitely has to be something that we take on as well moving forward.
Any other questions or comments? Ms. Warfield?
So, Mr. Wallen, so you talked about a couple things that could happen, and our real goal that we were trying to get to 25 miles an hour, but you also talked about these speed tables. So incrementally, is there anything that we can do and the defensive driving, actually, I don't know about the money part, but I think that's a good idea, and I'm wondering if it impacts people's insurance in a positive way.
Well, it would. I mean, if you take defensive driving for 3 years after you take it, you get a discount on your insurance.
So that can be their incentive as well.
Correct. I think it's a great incentive.
Yeah, that we don't have, we can't give you money. It definitely will take your insurance down. So incrementally, are there things we can do in what short time frame in terms of the speed tables and also the lowering the speed limit? I know you didn't want to do that individually, but...
Yeah, so lowering the speed limit, I mean, I would really like, I know that you could just have patience and bear with me as I go through it with the engineers and Brian, because it's there and we'll get it. And I can even run some of this through them to see if we can do it faster. But in the shorter term, things that we can control, take Duane Avenue with the speed table. So I showed you the results. I don't have any complaints. We do not have any permanent speed tables in the area. I would prefer that if we were to put speed tables in, they come with some kind of a documented support from the council that says that you are okay with the implementation of these speed tables. And that's kind of what I'm looking for, is the procedures in it. I do not believe, and I can look, that there's anything in the city charter that says that the city engineer can put speed tables in. I'm sure you could find some language that says anything in his discretion, but I would just like to have the support, if we're going to move forward, if we want to put that in permanently, we can move forward with in the spring. It's almost pop, but putting those in permanently, coming up with standards. We're going to need markers on either side for plows, right? We're going to need reflectors. We're going to need to make sure, but that could be a step that the committee can take, or the council can take, as well as if we want to entertain a forum like Rochester, if we want to entertain allowing us to move forward internally with identifying a couple other locations and doing programs like this to do that and coming back. Because right now that was a test, it was a pilot program. Pilot program's over, it did seem effective, I just don't know how to move forward.
Any other questions or comments? Ms. Toro?
Thank you. Yes, thank you, Chris. So I know since we purchased the first one, you had mentioned in prior meetings that the cost has gone up substantially with the cost of them. How much?
Of the speed tables themselves?
Yeah.
Okay. They're not, I wouldn't worry about the cost of them necessarily. I mean, if we're gonna buy another set of them, we have a set. We just need to find the right spot to put them in based off of this information, and I can bring that to you. But when they do work, because this will be I don't know how to control the floodgates necessarily. If you were to go to Albany and go into the Arbor Hill neighborhood, I believe they spent $1 million putting in speed tables throughout the Arbor Hill neighborhood. So once again, that is a commitment of city funds that currently you don't have in front of you. So if we're going to do that, you're going to say, Chris, we usually bond you $1.5 million to pave city roads. We want to take a percentage of that, and we want you to put it in the speed tables. All right? There's no funding source out there that I'm aware of. I can see if HSIP funding is available, but everything we do has a repercussion from somewhere else. And if we do Duane Avenue, what's to say that a neighboring street will not want something similar if you're going to see it? And then that's how, when Arbor Hill, they did multiple streets. So we have one, it was a school zone, it was picked because it's cut through, it's a good street. Craig Street, which is right identified next to it, that traffic calming is going to be different. That traffic calming is we're narrowing the road significantly. We're putting that cycle track in. We're going to be doing landscaping. So that's a different type of traffic calming.
I usually like reserving my questions to the end, but because they're related, can you talk around the turnaround time of installing them and then any maintenance issues that you identified on this test?
Of installing a speed hump? I do not think they would be a long lead time to install. It is typically they're asphalt. We could look to do it in the concrete, but I believe Albany's are all asphalt. If we were to design and put out a bid, we could probably put them in this year, but I don't know if that would be something that we would put it in just in time for plows. But it is literally, you would mill out a keyway in the location, then you would put probably some dowels to get it down, and then you would just form it with asphalt, which is handwork, but it could be done. And then we'd have to see if we wanted to paint it, and that was something then we'd have to maintain the paint. But we definitely would want, if you were to go to Colony, they have indicators on both sides, and then they have a sign ahead that says, bump ahead. We just have to put that package together similar to a school zone. So we have a speed table package. And anything can be done. It's really, this is pretty standard to the MUTCD books and things for when you have it. So I'm not too concerned about it. It's just when. And, one, I can afford a dozen. Now we're starting to get into impacting other things in the budget.
And then just the second part of that, the maintenance issues, does it permanently alter the integrity of the roadway, or was that something that you didn't identify as an issue?
No, it would only alter that location. Speed bump would be, and it would be integral to itself. It would only be, if we did concrete, it would be its own thing, which might be where we go with it to make it last a little longer.
Any other questions or comments, Ms. Patrick?
So it does seem, first of all, thank you. I know how much time you put into this, and I really appreciate it. It would obviously have budget implications. I'm looking at Mr. Ferrari, because I know he doesn't like budget implications. But obviously, whether it was speed tables, whether it's enforcement, whether it's, the lights, the things on the lights. How are we able to come up with those sort of budget projections in terms of what we would need to, if we were looking at this comprehensively, as you just did, as opposed to just the speed limit, are we able to, put that kind of packaging together in time for how it would impact the 2025 budget and what we would need to discuss for the 2025 budget?
I would probably start with talking with Bill in Albany. I believe when you set up these speed cameras, there is more of a agreement part of it where the company that you sign up to do it, it's like a revenue share to pay for somebody operating it. So I would have to, but I believe that's how that was set up. One of the things I'll share with this was an interesting one that we would just have to work through the logistic is apparently there is a law that with this school zone speed cameras, they have to issue the tickets within 14 days where the ticket is null, and that is done by the police department. So they're trying to figure out the resources to make sure that they can turn around those tickets in a time that's adequate to be able to get it out. So that's one of the things that they're looking at, is that, okay, they're anticipating that when they get up there for the first couple of months, the tickets are going to go high generation of tickets, and now they have to go through to get them all out. So that is a labor question that they have right now. And if you guide me that way, I will ask the questions and get the information. Like I said, this is a sandbox that I play in, so
Yes.
I know enough to get it. But it's just what do we want to do? And then, like you said, if we were to bond, you're going to come to the capital budget. And if I put a bond of $1.5 million, which is what a typical amount is that we would do annually, the speed tables can come out of that bonded money. That is applicable to come out of that. But once again, you're not doing something on a road. Otherwise, you're allocating the money differently, which is fine. I mean, it's all for the benefit of the city. But there is nothing else new. Everything's getting allocated differently.
Any other questions or comments? So with that being said, I just wanted to clarify one point you made. You said with respect to lowering the speed limit to 25 miles an hour, you were asking for additional time to see out that study to the end of the year. Is that correct?
Yes.
So the recommendation from our city engineer is to pause and allow him time to continue that work. How does everyone feel about that?
My hair has only gotten grayer. No, I'm only kidding. But, I mean, if we need to do that, we need to do that. Yeah, I mean...
But to your point, Ms. Patrick, we have a proven method that does work. So those speed tables, I know we're trying to weigh costs as we enter another budget season, but I think with respect to loss of life, I think this is not a complicated issue. I think it's more or less just how we make those concessions with our other asks that we have with regards to the budget in the city, and then asking our residents to understand if we are positioning money to affect change in this one area, that might come at an expense to others because we cannot do everything. So it's making sure there's a lot of realization and understanding that the enforcement and engineering are aspects that we can control, but that education is a collective responsibility. So we can take these steps, but if the community is not working collaboratively with us, then it will all be for naught, and then we'll be addressing the next micro-mobility issue as it comes in a decade or so.
Oh, that's going to come soon.
Yeah, sooner than a decade.
That's way sooner than a
Like the
decade.
next evolution.
Yeah. Would you like me to move forward with trying to create a City of Schenectady procedure?
Yes. Well,
For the public?
I say yes.
yes.
What? I say yes.
And then I did want to get a clarification. You said if we elected to today, we could put a stop sign on Kings Road. The issue was whether it'd be effective or not. Can you just clarify, or did I not hear that correctly?
Be effective.
Well, you said in the
Yeah,
beginning.
so I know I'm trying to be nice and what was the word? Neutral with the word. Is that the article like I sent out regarding the town board and Ballston Spa, whatever their elected body is that they thought it was in the best interest of the town and for town safety to put that stop sign there, even though they acknowledge that it did not meet the criteria laid out by the MUTCD. And that was how it was worded, and that's how it was stated, is they wanted to put it there because they felt it was in the best interest of the town. And that's what I'm saying is that, there's a lot of, we just went through some language here when I was reading out on federal highways that states that the jurisdiction ultimately has authority over their jurisdiction. The MUTCD is a manual. They're not going to come out and cut it down. In the Ballston Spa article, the DOT acknowledged that they would not put that stop sign there, but that the town has the authority to do so. Me being a licensed engineer, I would prefer not to do things contrary to the manual that I went to school for. So that is why, you know, I'm not trying to say that it's not possible. It's impossible for you to do it. If you do it, you're going to get arrested, they're going to tear it down. It's impossible to do. I'm just saying that you will not get a letter of recommendation from me to put that stop sign there because it's not one of the tools. It's not one of the things that we do as engineers to control traffic. But if you believe it is effective, it has been done. You will find stop signs, you will find signals in this city that have been put up for reasons like this. So that's where I'm trying to put that the power can still be at this table. It does not have to come through me to do something like this. You know, we have signal superintendent, we have the ability to do things. And that's what I kind of just wanted to make sure everybody's aware of, is that by me saying that I don't support it does not mean saying that anyone is going to come and say it is illegal.
Thank you. Any other questions of Mr. Toro?
Yes, just relating to that, thank you. What would be the legality of it if we, assigned a stop sign to Kings Road, and there's a, God forbid, a terrible accident there, and it's not under any guidelines?
It's got to be the guidelines for a stop sign.
Yeah, I don't know, just...
As far as
To make it legal.
to make it legal.
Well, I think it would be a moot point also. I don't see an instance of us completely disregarding or contradicting your recommendation.
Well,
Mr. Mayor?
Those type of situations talk hypothetically as opposed to any particular site. You put a stop sign up where it's not recommended or the studies don't support it, you're going to tend to see an increase in the rear end collisions. You're going to get, they may not be horrific accidents, but you get personal injury accidents, you get damage to cars, you get people who do suffer some injuries as a result of somebody stopping. They're not geared to stop, they run into them. And those things also over time tend to decrease. But the initial placement of it tends to create more events than not having it there.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks.
Mr. Murray?
Yeah, regarding the table, traffic table calming device, I would recommend that maybe you do it by ordinance, giving the city engineer the authority to develop a policy that from time to time will be updated according to the standards of the traffic safety community. That way it gives him, the city engineer, flexibility to update that. Anytime it is updated, it's brought back to the council, but just to delegate that, and that if you're committing to that table, those traffic calming devices, in the budget process, that would probably be a good time to do it, because then you're really making the commitment. You're making, we're going to spend X amount of dollars for these types of devices, and as such, we're delegating, or not delegating, we're empowering or clarifying or clearly setting forth that the city engineer has the authority, and working with the signals people and the police department to develop this standards that will be presented to the council and updated from time to time as necessary on notice to the council.
So always like asking before designating or assigning work, is that a product your office can take on, the creating that language, that narrative?
Creating the language that we were just talking about.
Yeah, we'll develop the ordinance, and regarding the policy, we can work with the engineer's office regarding that, but we haven't, as Mr. Wallen has indicated, there's a good template to work off from the city of Rochester that may just need to be adjusted accordingly, so we can work with them on that.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? So at this point, the only measure we're going to move forward with is continuing with the study to outline some additional locations.
And I'm going to update that.
We're going to update this. There's one other recommendation, because I know we get emails like from people about the 25 miles an hour. We're going to get them consistently. I think that we should put out some statement or something that we are working on it, because we're being compared, well, Albany did it and you haven't done it. So to your point, Mr. Mancini, if we want to at least let people know the direction we're moving in.
Sure. And once again, Albany, like I said, they have done it, but it's not done.
Right.
So if we do everything and we hurry and we try to do it, we may be close to them. So, I mean, right now, if you'd like to, that's perfectly acceptable to say that we're looking at it, and then if we say that we're looking at it and we're going to do it, then we're tied with Albany because they haven't done it.
Okay, well, we'll put together a PSA,
Yeah.
get some information from you
Yeah.
to do that.
When would you like to see us back on the agenda?
Well, when should we think about having you guys come back to us?
Give 2 cycles and we'll come back, and I can do update 2 and we can put that on there. Brian's already, he's already pulled data. We already have data from PD to try to recommend a second spot, and then that'll give me some time to put together our own format with that, and then Mr. O'Brien can put together his language and you can see what we've got. But I think kind of trying to do it this way, maybe with a couple of updates and this group approach, I think that will be more positive to trying to get some results out of it, and then getting the information into the mayor's data report now that we know what we're looking for. And then I believe both Brian and then Michael Hamilton are innovations, but they're both signed up for the CLEAR database, so they're going to start to try to pull some GIS data, so we'll see what that has.
GIS?
Geographic information, it's a mapping where we can try to see hot spots and things like that. So a lot of information out there, it's just how you get it together.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments to call public safety?
I just do want to reiterate that, again, my goal was, I always knew that there were going to be streets that needed to remain at a higher speed, given the traffic density and traffic flow, as well as the fact that there will be districts, like the school district, that would be still at probably 15 miles per hour. So I just wanted to clarify that. I knew that. And that,
And
totally support that we have to do, in certain areas that will be higher speed.
And I would just also like, I can say in my defense of it, but when we were here previously, these requests, they seemed like a mountain with the state guidelines, which were very explicit and prescribed. 80 percentile, they had 5 steps that you would go through. We generated a report that was 30 pages for one street.
Yes.
And then we generated 25. The federal guidelines being simplified allow us to do things so much more streamlined and efficient, that this is just what we're doing with the consultant, is just going through, checking everything, making sure we have what we want. Even the conversations that I had today with Brian to get to that map with just those 2 streets, that's efficient. Like I said, I don't want to berate it, but like this map here, this is the only reason is that this particular map here is I just always remind myself that if we were a town or a village, most of the, what color streets are they? The green and the red streets, we wouldn't be able to do it because they wouldn't be ours. They would be somebody else's jurisdiction. And so, if they're not doing it and they're not even entertaining it, I just want to make sure that we're stepping forward correctly. Have faith, and I will be back and we'll have it.
Would you mind sending this?
I will send this out. I was trying to hand it out,
Yeah, no, I get
and I
it.
did
I
not
get it.
have
I
the
don't have
chance.
the computer
But I will
problems
send it
like
to Sam.
Thank you. Thank you very, very much.
Any other questions?
Thank you very much.
Of course. Any other questions or concerns for Public Safety Committee? Hearing none, may I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second, all those in favor? Aye. We are adjourned.
Thank you.
I'd like to call to order the Finance Committee. We have 2 items on the agenda tonight, the first of which is a call for public hearing to collect feedback from city residents on the CDBG CV funding to prevent, prepare for, and respond to coronavirus projects. Mr. Khan.
Hi, my name is Bhavan Karn. I'm looking for the second public hearing for the CDBG fund we got for the coronavirus prepare, prevent, and what to do with that. So that's my ask is.
Thank you. Any questions or comments?
When was the first public hearing held?
It should be in the beginning of 2022.
So that was the first one, March 2022. And in terms of the reporting, how does this work in terms of development and they being a part of the reporting? Because I know they're very involved with CDBG. So this part of it, does this also include something that development has to report to HUD? Or is this separate and apart from that?
I think it's a separate
funding for this.
2.6 million was for the separate from what CDBG had. So this was for the deployment for the Wi-Fi, and we did work with Daily Gazette for the community development news and things like that. So public can see the news in their zip code or their area, what is going on. And also one was a stay well. That is, we have partnered with Alice Hospital to put on one device called ION to see if somebody has fever or anything like that for the immunity deficiency patient.
Thank you.
Any other questions or concerns? Mr. Ryan?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, it's a part of the closeout process. Because of this pot of money, it's under the CARES Act. They require, if you get the money, one public hearing, and then this is the closeout public hearing. So this is part of the closeout process. So this is part of the reporting process back to the budget.
Thank you. Any others? Hearing none, may I have a motion?
So moved.
I'll second. All those in favor?
Aye.
The next item on the agenda is the ARPA Dairy Foundation / Empowerment Center and Carver Resource Center Fund reallocation. Ms. Carver?
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. Before I move into my legislative request, Madam President, okay if I just share for a moment? Certainly. So, we're here today talking about ARPA. Next week, I'm coming up on my 1 year here with the City of Schenectady, so it had me reflecting on that time, my second day on the job. Anthony and Derek says, hey, Alex, do you remind reporting on ARPA, the City Council? And I came up here really reading off of a paper, trying to figure it out. So we have come a long way in 12 months, and I just wanted to say a couple of thank yous. First off, Mr. Mayor, thank you for your open door policy, or allow me the space to come into your office 5 out of 5 days to be my authentic self with your leadership and guidance given to me. I appreciate you. To the City Council members, thank you so much. Thank you for your dedication to the residents and taxpayers here at the city. And some of you, thank you for your support in more ways than one. You know who you are. Thank you for the calls, the check-in. I truly appreciate it. To my colleagues here at the City of Schenectady who have made the transition in this role and helping me get acclimated, the support answering all of my silly questions, Chris Wallen, Chris Lum, Paul LaFon, Al, the maintenance team, the law department, Bawan and my buddies in IT, Codes, Molly, the entire finance team, my city clerk family, the mayor's office and their team, as I would say, Lottie Dottie and everybody. And last but certainly not least, my wonderful, wonderful team in the Department of Development. We have succeeded 4 HUD audits in the last 12 months, revamped our collaborative tree program, managed over $17.1 million in federal funding. 14 million of that is the ARPA funding that was pushed out to our local organizations and nonprofits in the City of Schenectady, and the remainder is our CDBG home and ESG funding. We've identified the gaps in our processes. We've updated our internal processes and procedures for community development. We've even implemented a new CRM system to manage our community development federal fundings. We've established internal workflows, including other departments. We have increased in capacity, which was a big deal. We onboarded 2 part-time community development team members, a community development supervisor, and an assistant planner. And most of all, the morale in my department is boosted. And I just wanted to simply just take a couple minutes to thank each and every one of you for your partnership to the community, for giving me grace and patience as I learn and adjust in this role. We've been walking all year, so get ready. We're going to start jogging. So thank you. And I see the mayor is getting teary-eyed, so I probably should move on to my legislative request.
You're not going anywhere, right?
No.
She's got an official shirt.
So today, we are addressing ARPA funding, the Doree Foundation Empowerment Center, and the Carver Resource Center for reallocation. The ARPA allocation for Empowerment Center and Doree totaled $1,075,000. $875,000 of that was allocated to the Empowerment Center, and $200,000 was allocated to the Doree Foundation. The Carver Center had $1,250,000 allocated for their rehabilitation, and that was noted in Resolution 22-214. Today, the Doree Foundation is asking to separate their $200,000 ARPA allocation from the Empowerment Center. In addition, they are requesting $139,300 from the Empowerment Center allocation, giving them a total of $339,300 to be used for operating costs at the 311 Hewlett Street property. The second ask is the Empowerment Center. The Empowerment Center ARPA allocation amount that would be left if we give Doree the additional $139,300 would be forgive me. The Empowerment Center balance to date is $794,116. If we provide Doree the $139,300 that they are asking for in addition to their $200K, the balance for the Empowerment Center will be $654,786. The third ask is that the ARPA allocation of $1,250,000 remain with the Carver Center in addition to the balance left from the Empowerment Center of the $654,786, which will give the Carver Center $1,904,786.
Thank you.
So the ask is that City Council consider the above that was just noted.
Any questions or comments? Ms. Patrick?
I fully support the idea of giving the Doree Foundation, which I always mispronounce, I thought it was Doree, but okay, the $139,300 to bring them up to the $339,300. A few of us attended the meeting the other day, and they are currently doing that work. So this would allow them to continue doing that work. So I do support that. And then obviously the next one is just what the balance would then be for the Empowerment Center. I still have some questions about the Carver. So I wanted to hear a little bit more about that, perhaps in terms of, I know that in terms of the building and maybe from the mayor in terms of what you thought moving forward with that one. But I really would like to support I don't know if you want to do this separately or as one, but.
Well, we're going to have to do separate resolutions for Doree, and then we'll have to discuss the other part of it. Yes.
So I'd be happy to make them.
Well, I think we can leave it open to others to have questions or comments.
Okay.
So I attended the meeting where Doree came and asked for their additional funding. And I just, want to point out that it's been a couple years since we've been going down this road with this funding. And in the meantime, we've funded multiple other projects. And so we're getting to the point where we have to be at the end of this year, have to allocate these funds in order for it to, otherwise we would not be able to allocate it to this agency. So I'm in full support of this, keeping in mind that initially Doree asked for a lot more money. However, in the process, a couple years ago, they were put together with the Empowerment Center, not at their request, but as a decision in development prior. So to me, for them to ask now for this amount of money, which is still overall less than what they were asked for, and it's not stated here, but their project cost is more because they already have a building, but they have already gone ahead and gotten the funding to do the building. Initially, they asked for us for the funding, but it took so long that they went to another source to make sure that they had the money for the funding. So we would have to change it in that way as well, because the use of the funds are now to do programming as opposed to rehabbing the building, but they've already got funding for that. So additional money and also change of use.
In the resolution previously done, it was just for programming, not for rehab,
Okay.
200,000. So we wouldn't have
So
to
we
do a
wouldn't have
change.
to, okay, but we just have to increase it.
Yes.
All right. So I'm fully in support of that. And just for clarity, the Empowerment Center as it stands will not exist at 818 Albany Street, which was originally the process. And some of the money that you'll see that's gone from the budget went into stabilizing the building. So, but that's not where it would happen. So the Empowerment Center would be a part of the Carver Cooperative project that's being worked on. So it doesn't exist in its own as a standalone, because that's been a question that's been kicked around. But the services that they would provide would exist within the Carver building. So, and let me just say, I do support that we continue moving ahead and look for other funding in order to do this project within Carver. Just taking a look at the community and the investment that we need to have happen. People have continually been asking. I know it's been a road, and one organization had it, and then they moved away from it. That doesn't mean that the need has gone away. The need still exists. So the city, we've identified ways to support other organizations and agencies. So I suggest that we strongly look at ways to support this organization and agency in a community that's really, that needs the service, and Carver's been a staple. I know it's been a while, and just for the facts, it wasn't people from the community, it wasn't under their control that it went to its current state. So just want to state that as well. But I would support us not only giving this funding, but finding other ways to help them get other funding and nailing down. I know they said they have other funding sources, but nailing those down and finding out what those gaps are. So to see if there's ways that we can close the gap. They said they had a verbal commitment from the county, and I forgot the other source. Santa Barbara's office. So they said they had verbal commitments, and I would recommend, rather than counting them out, that we look at what those commitments are and get them strong commitments, and then see how we can fill a gap to move that project forward as well.
Any other questions or comments on Mr. Ford?
Yeah, so I would absolutely 100% support our jury, and I would just note that I think that even this, their request is extremely humble. I think it's a very humble request based on the work that they've been doing already without us being able to get them the resources that they needed in a timely manner. One indicator of someone's dedication to a project is that they're going to find a way, and so they haven't been just talking, they've been really doing, and I think that, not only do I think that we need to support them with their ask, I think that, I appreciate all the work that you're doing in your office. We're so blessed to have you here, and I think a big part of that work is partnering with them to even not only help them with the resources that we can give them, but help them with finding some more other resources to support the work they're doing. I think it's an absolute no-brainer, and I would really struggle to find out why anybody else at the table would think anything different.
Any other questions there? Mr. Mincy?
Yeah, I attended the meeting as well. And my question is, on the Carver, there was some concern, do we have enough money for the building rehab? Operational costs are is not part of the request. That's another conversation, but the building, will this 1.25 plus the 654,000 get us there? Do we know?
Would look for the council to just deal with the dirty component of this tonight and look to put together those other numbers, because right now I'm not comfortable there's enough money on the table to do the appropriate rehab or the rehab that's been outlined in that building. So we're still working on that.
I would support Gary for that.
Well, that's why I was saying they've had other verbal commitments, so we would look to them to get those firm commitments to see if they could get to whatever the number is. Yeah. The mayor stated at the meeting that it was going to be higher than it was when they initially asked for it. But there's no one present from the organization tonight, but they did say that they, had a plan. So we would have to hear what their plan is and how much funding they had to back their plan.
Ms. Patrick?
Yeah, I'd like to say that, again, the players that were here the other night, I support them, and I have talked with both of them, the folks that were here the other day from Carver, and it's gone through a lot of changes over the years, even just since I've been on council, in terms of what the mission statement was for the programming within the Carver. So I do want to say that I support that aspect, of course, of what's happening. And I do appreciate also that I know that from Ms. Carver's office that there'd be support and there'd be technical assistance, which is something we've talked about for a long time. So that would be really great as well. I would say that one of the things that we did when we did award them the initial ARPA funding, when it was in a previous incarnation, we had a contingency in terms of, by when they would get the remaining funds in place solidly to be able to move forward with the project. And so I just throw that out to see what people think about that and whether we need to do that again, because we are coming up on, a deadline of being able to spend the money in a way that, we want to make sure that money gets spent by the time that the federal government needs us to have it spent. So I just throw that out there.
So I'd say what I feel comfortable saying is first I want to make sure we give credit to the individuals that got us this conversation. That was the original crew, for lack of better words, that was leading that Miracle on Craig conversation. Very much there was a lot of learning and carrying this conversation throughout truly the pandemic. And it was a credit to their dedication not only to the community, but seeing that this building that was dilapidated comes back to life. From that, there were a lot of questions about their ability to kind of structure and make sure that ourselves as legislators, we feel comfortable designating large swaths of money because we need to have a plan in place. And I see the transition and transformation that has happened since then with this new, reinvigoration of this current project and how it was presented to us. I understand that this is not going to fully fill that gap, but there have been other projects that have not been fully allocated for it and that we have comfortably allowed them time to continue as is. Reference YWCA and the confidence and their ability to fill those gaps. I think there was a slight hole, in comparison to the entire budget. Our reflection was, we trust that you will figure it out. As we've had these conversations, it has talked about equitability and being transparent with not just our community, with this project. Again, I think the additional money allocating to that, this gets them closer. I think as Ms. Porterfield has identified, there are other players, external partners, who similar to what happened beautifully with my side, where this funding stream was able to be identified to keep this resource within our city. I am confident this will be able to occur again. And then in my conversations with members of the program team, it was made clear that if we were able to position the city in a way that we could leverage our capacity, that again will make that gap slightly smaller. And then just so I can capture this for everyone in the room, but also listening, again, getting to the end of the year doesn't mean the project has to be done, the money has to be allotted. So there's truly no timeline in place as long as we can confidently say we are moving forward. I don't think it is anyone's interest to fund a project, but again, keep it in line with the manner in which we've responded to other projects. I don't think saying no or waiting, I think that sends a disservice to them.
So you're asking us to keep that same attitude?
Absolutely. Any questions or comments? I'm sorry. Ms. Patrick?
Well, I do want to back up because some of the other organizations that approached us for funding, for example, the YW, to your example, has been in operation for decades, successfully doing their work. So this is different because we will be taking a chance on an organization that has not at all started their work in this incarnation. So again, I respect the leadership of the new project, but it's apples and oranges to try to compare it to something like the YW, because the YW has been successfully doing their work for, I want to say like 100 years or something. 135 years. So, we know that making that investment, there was experience and expertise there with a track record for how they were going to use the funds. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Mr. Farley?
So to that, I would say that when we talk about funding allocation in terms of equity, what we have to understand is someone like the Y who has been around for a long time doing a lot of valuable work. Part of the reason why they can do that work is because they have the capacity to do the work. So when we're talking about grassroots initiatives and not making decisions for people, but making decisions with people, part of the culture, if you will, of the original intent was that things would have moved a lot faster and even more maybe efficient from a business lens if the leadership group there was just saying, this is what the community needs and this is what we're going to do. Really what they're saying is that they're getting that feedback from the community. They're leveraging what is tons of highly skilled people and highly skilled people with skill sets within the community to come together to make this project work. So when you look at it through the lens of this is community-based and not just, they don't have the same capacity of some of our big box nonprofits that have been doing the work for some time, then that's literally the definition of equity, is that you're giving people what they need in order to be successful. Luckily to the Y, for years and years of funding and support, and other nonprofits that have benefited from a systemically unjust and inequitable system, of course they're in a position to do some of the work that they're doing. Look at a project like what we're referring to as Carver at this point. They haven't had that institutional support for the decades. So I don't expect, so to your point, it is apples to oranges, but maybe if we're looking at it from a different vantage point, it's just highlights the extreme inequitable and unjust treatment of small community nonprofits trying to do big work. And I'm glad that we're all in support of Doree, because I think that even though something like Doree has not came to us multiple times over the decades for funding, they've been doing work in the community for 180 years. So it's like, when we think about that, just because we haven't seen the work that's been done in that broader scope of like a nonprofit sector, the people that are at the helm of this have been doing the work collectively, I would say for at least 100 years, all the people that you have the leadership. So you have to really make sure that we're acknowledging that, because that's the definition of equity.
We're not doing that.
Any other questions or comments?
So I just wanted to highlight that with the investment that the city is making on the Craig Main connection, it's important that we address the Carver Center one way or another. So I just want to stress that we have a lot of money that we are putting in to that project. So we need to find a way to execute it. I know that the mayor has suggested that the city may keep ownership and give the co-op a pathway to ownership, but that still doesn't take the pressure off the city with being able to find the funds for the gap. It's not a one-person thing here. This is going to take the collective, the collective group, because for us, the mayor will be upset with me for saying that.
So, yes, I was going to bring the Craig name that's coming up, so I think that's important that we keep that in mind. We would just want to have a building that's standing there. I don't want to call it derelict, because it's, it's not derelict. It's actually standing pretty strong for the number of years that it's been there. It's, and the MOC group prior to this did some sweat equity inside, so they really tried really hard. But let's keep in mind, they weren't actually given any funding necessarily. It was on a reimbursement basis, which was challenging for a small organization. And to say that, the Y has been doing work for a very long time, but they've also got continuous support. Even in this instance, the money that we're providing for this project, for consistently CDBG over the years. So they have that track record because we've been supporting it over those years. So when we start looking at newer organizations, I'm going to use the Cocoa House. They've been around for a while, and they did a lot on their own. And the reason they're able to sustain, even though they're much newer than the YW, is because the city provided that support as well, and they moved forward. So I see us trying to do the same kind of thing with the Carver, which has been there for a very long time, but because of the leadership at the time, it just went under. So to respond to a community response, and then as a city to look at it the same way we look at some long-established agencies like the Y, I think it's important for us to do, and not to just have it standing there. We can't build beautiful around it and do this wonderful Craig Main connection and narrow the streets and have a bike path and do all that stuff, and then have the building there unkept. So we have to, pull that plan together, help with that plan so that it can move forward. And if the city's keeping ownership until they can move a pathway, then that's fine. But something, we can't just say nothing.
Any other questions or comments? So hearing none, I know this is sorry, Mr.
I fully support both initiatives, and then now as an associate commissioner at the state, we invested a $9 million project into how do we grow $9 million. How do we, juvenile justice settings, how do we grow, so the big box agencies don't get bigger? How do we find ways to invest in those community-based agencies that serve the community that live, and that the agencies in those communities are growing, and not necessarily those larger agencies? So I fully support this initiative. The only, what?
Sorry.
But working in a nonprofit, I do see the challenges in maintaining and getting these funding sources and how labor intensive they are. First thing I think we need to look at is, do we have enough to rehab the building? If we do, and Carver project doesn't come up with the funding to start operational programming, do we not give them the building? I mean, are there contingencies? Our commitment here is to rehab the building. And do we move ahead with that? But if their operational funding is not there, or we're not satisfied with that, do we still transfer ownership? Can we give them opportunities to start operations and then decide that? I mean, I don't know if those are options to consider, but I think as much as we can, as a body, work with the kind of make this work, we should make it work. I like the concepts. I like the opportunities of programming in the communities that they serve. Just like, how do we collectively find a way to help them make that work if it's possible? I like the momentum. I like the passion of the people that want to serve their community and partner with us. And I would just like to, keep that momentum going and see what we can do both as a council and the county and look at ways we can make this work.
So I'd say in part to that, there's a reflection of teamwork in that no one person or no one organization is successful on their own. I would say case in point by that lovely depiction of all the work that you've done in a short amount of time truly is a reflection of not yourself. It is the supports that you have surrounding you. In no way, as you discussed the Carver project, has there any sense of concern or weariness. I think it is all the more confidence that if you can apply the successful measures that you've allowed to successfully drive these other projects into closing, which truly is an accomplishment. I don't know if anyone remembers where we were a year ago. We are in a truly different place. Thank you to your leadership in joining this Schenectady family, Schenectady team. But where they are now is not a depiction of where they will remain. Is kind of what I'm getting at. So there's no wishful thinking or hopeful conjecture. Truly, like you said, the momentum is going forward. So are we going to stalemate that? Are we going to get behind them and push harder? And I think we do that by making a decision tonight and allowing Ms. Carver to continue doing the work that is evident, so that this group, this community, Carver, can move forward. And then we transition our focus to addressing how do we bring in, secure those funding streams and those dollars, so that we have that not as a hope, but as a cemented commitment. So with that, any other questions or comments? Mr. Farley?
So just brief, I really want to be mindful of that, because what I'm hearing, I don't think that we are pitting one agency's records against another. I want to be clear that that's not what I'm hearing from any of my fellow council members. What I'm thinking I'm hearing, and if correct me if I'm wrong, is concerns about sustainability once you make the investment in the project. And I think that the equitable response to that is to assist as much as we can to help the capacity build to make sure that that the project is a success, and really just check the way that we are valuing the skill sets of the people that are involved with the project, because again, there might not be that institutional length of track record. There's definitely individual success in the work that's been happening in the community, and that is some of the things that people like at the big nonprofits, that's the talent that they seek to go hire people from the community to do what they're doing. So that's a really valuable skill set. So I think that I just want to uplift and amplify that, and at the same time, I think that we all are kind of talking the same language. We're just trying to figure out what's the best way forward, right?
Yes. I just have to say, in defense of my profession of being in nonprofit and being a fundraiser in nonprofit, from which I'm now retired, but I have to say that I don't consider big box as an appropriate term for a Bethesda House, a SCAP, a YWCA, a City Mission. They're all organizations that struggle to, well, I'm just saying, I mean, I guess I just have to say that they're all, in my mind, small nonprofits serving this community, meeting a need. Each one of them has a mission that they are definitely serving the people that come to them for services, and they all, I can tell you from my years of working in this community as a fundraiser, they are out there pounding doors every day trying to find the funding that they need to exist, to excel, to succeed. So none of them have money trees in the backyard, as my father used to accuse me of thinking he had. They all are needing to really pound the pavement and look for dollars. So I support what y'all are saying, and I'll vote the way you're saying, but I just want to go back on
The
that.
agencies that I had in mind were not anything that was started locally. They serve state, every community throughout the state. So
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, so for clarity, there are these things, like, so let's just talk about the infrastructure really quickly about the agencies that I'm talking about. When I say big box nonprofits, I'm talking about, with an operation budget, that's, over, $5-6 million, you know what I mean? That's what I mean. You could tell through my voting record of supporting these agencies, and my contribution showing up over the years that I definitely support and value them. What I'm saying is that if we look at the city's track record of how we've been allocating funds to certain nonprofits, it's been happening over a period of time, years and years and years. And I think we should continue along that path, but we need to be clear that when we're talking about equitable, we can't just say that word if we're not going to do it. Doing it is looking at the scope of what people's capacity is, recognizing the strengths, and then if we're in a position to help them, then we can't just support them in words, we need to do it in actions, and that's what I'm saying. So again, I feel like the conversation is going towards like, we're starting to pit them against each other, and that's not what we need to be doing.
No, I don't think anybody's doing that.
What I'm saying is, Damani's point, and I'll speak for myself very, very clearly, is that I've never insinuated that any of these nonprofits have more money than what they know what to do with. I'm saying that if there is a set pot of money, then we have decisions to make, and we need to make those decisions equitably if we're going to say that word every other 5 minutes.
So I'd say as I prepare to call for a motion, I would say, just so it's clear and understood my position, in no way do I plan to deviate from getting to a point where you are comfortable with supporting all this money, in my mind, needs to go to Carver, point blank. And I think the work that your team has done in getting us to this pathway, and I think with that is one of what's so many remaining steps in line to get them to a grand opening where the community can truly embrace this resource once again. So with that, if there are no other questions or comments.
So I just want to point out, and Ms. Carver has mentioned this before, that in terms of looking at the funding sources, she's looking at how we fund it over and over again and ways to increase that funding to other organizations that have not had the ability to do that. So that is something among all the other many things that she's doing so well that she is looking at. So we should, as a council, be able to see that coming forward as well.
So Mr. Fines, kind of what left, I'm looking for some discretion. Do we need to look at each of these items individually, or
do this one tonight?
only this one? Okay, perfect. So may I have a motion about proceeding forward with the Dairy reallotment?
So moved.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
And then the remaining items, we will come before the council again and...
We'll come back with discussion. Yes.
All right, thank you again.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other items to befall the Finance Committee? Hearing none, may I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second, all those in favor? Aye, we are adjourned.
Thank you. I'd like to call to order City Development and Planning. There are 11 items on the agenda. Okay, I'm just going to wait a minute because it looks like the room's going to clear. Okay, we need you guys to we still have to go on the top of John. On top of yeah, I see that.
Social media being available.
move them away from the door? No, thank you.
They're gonna listen to the pastor.
Okay, so I've called together City Development and Planning. Our first item on the agenda is a word bid contract for the Schenectady City Hall ventilation replacement. Mr. Wallen.
Hello?
Hi.
I feel unpopular now. So the first one we have here, Schenectady City Hall ventilation is,
No, I'm just trying to estimate.
this is one of two bids. We did not get a bid for the mechanical portion of it. It is out as a rebid right now, but there's no reason that we can't award the electrical portion of it. What this is to do is one of my bucket list projects when I started was to reinstate the broken ventilation system in City Hall. That system will not affect most of the rooms, however, it will affect the bathrooms and it will affect the council chambers room, as those are the rooms that have ventilation systems in them. All the ventilation system does is exhaust air and pull air from the hallways. It is technology from 1940, but it will allow the building to breathe a little bit. And so we would like to put that system back into place.
Any questions or comments?
I'll move it.
I'll second. All those in favor? Aye. Thank you. Item number 2 is award bid and contract for the Schenectady City Hall clock tower restoration to Mid-State Industries L. Limited.
So this is exactly as it says, restoration of the existing clock tower. As we know, the anniversary of the clock tower burning down was recently. They covered that. And the clock tower does need refurbishment. A lot of the wood that makes up some of the decorative pieces is rotten. There is peeling paint. What we wanted to do is repaint, but we don't want to repaint onto bad wood. We also are going to re-gold the dome, replace the clock faces in the works, and make sure right now they're a little loose, so the times are different around. So it would be a total refurbishment of the clock tower. Mid-State Industries is the group that is also doing the refurbishment of the Northbury Pump Station. They're familiar with the city. We've worked with them on several projects, so we're comfortable with them. And their price was significantly less than the second bid, which was also good.
And the money's already in the budget for the capital budget for this?
Yes, this is coming from a capital facility code, not any kind of an urban code. This was something that we bonded this year.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Toro.
Oh, hi, thank you. The difference between the $1,068,800 and down to what they're charging, what is the difference? The $508?
Why is it so different?
Yeah.
I did not call the second bidder.
Oh, okay.
But
I didn't see that. I saw paint just...
They would have made a lot more money.
Right, we call that leaving money on the table. I don't know why.
I see number 1 and number 2. There you go. Got it.
I did talk with them just to let you know I thought the question would come up. This is a spring project, not a winter project. Just the scaffolding alone, I talked with Mid-State. Just the scaffolding alone will take a month to set up. So once the scaffolding gets set up, it takes a month to set up. Then we have work. We're going to be into just inclement weather. And we thought that instead of trying to leave it up or do it, just start in the spring, get it done, because it's going to be very elaborate scaffolding.
Give me this.
Any other questions or comments?
I'll move it.
I'll second it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Item number 3 was going to be the ceremonial renaming of the city street. Was put on Mr. Mudabaran. Mr. Mudabaran was unable to be here tonight, so I'll ask him, and we'll probably move that out for 2 weeks. The information's in your packet, and I'm sure that all of you have received emails regarding this particular discussion. So we'll bring that back in 2 weeks. The remaining items are all for executive session. They're property sales. So I would entertain a motion to go into executive session. So moved. I'll second. All those in favor? Aye. For executive session, members of the public would have to leave.